Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Development Review Board for the Town of Essex on Thursday, August 7th. We'll start off this evening. One of the first things I'd like to highlight before we get going is I'd like to thank Sharon for stepping in last week as chair for me while I couldn't attend the meeting, so I appreciate your stepping in at the last second. And it wasn't solely because when we voted that you were making the cut off my head sign. So I would like to go through the room and just announce who's here as far as both staff and DRB members. And I'll start with Sharon, if you would.
Sharon Kelly, zoning administrator.
Catherine Sonic, UB Development Director.
Kent Johnson, Town Planner.
Nick Martin, Board Member.
Stephanie Bixby, Board Member.
And Carol, Chair.
Sharon Zakowski, Vice Chair.
Hubert Norton, Board Member. Dustin Brousseau, Board Member.
Thank you. First item that we have on our agenda this evening is agenda additions or changes. Do we have any additions, staff, or changes from staff? No. And
I'd like to move that we swap items 5 and 6, so moving business items to after the public hearing and the 2 application agenda items.
Motion, because I was going to make the same one.
Right.
so we've got a motion to swap items 5 and 6. That's been seconded as well. Motion by Nick, seconded by Sharon. Any discussion among the board? Hearing none. All those in favor of that swap, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Trevor, I missed yours. Did you say aye or no?
I did say aye.
Okay, thank you. Then motion carries 7-0. There we go. Okay. And then with that, I will ask if there's somebody who would like to make a motion to approve the agenda
So moved.
as changed. Moved by Nick,
Seconded.
seconded by Sharon. Any further discussion amongst the board? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Now we're up to the public hearing. Reminder that the public hearing, we do ask for anybody that's in the room or online who has the intention of speaking this evening, whether you decide to or not, but have perhaps thinking that you may, we'd like to ask you to raise your right hand and take the oath. Those online, if you would put your hand up. I see Annie has hers up. Anyone else who may be speaking, if you would put your hand emoji up, we would appreciate that. And I will ask the question: do you affirm that the evidence that you're giving in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All three of you online, I see. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of order. I think you skipped over public to be heard.
Yes, I did. You're right. I skipped right over it. I penciled it right off, and you're right, and I apologize. Thank you for pointing that out. We now are at the item where public to be heard, where we actually have opened up the idea of anybody in the public who would like to speak on anything that is not on this evening's agenda. Paula?
Could you run through what the agenda is?
Absolutely. Sure. There are none printed today. Sorry. Call to order was the first item on the agenda, which we did. Agenda additions and changes, which we did. We changed item 5 and 6, swap those out. I'll get to that in a second. We had approve agenda, which we've done. We are now on the public to be heard section, where the folks are able to come up and speak about items that are not on this evening's agenda. We then will go to the public hearing section, and the public hearing section has 2 plans for us to review this evening. Followed up by that by business items, which is the switch. The 5 and 6 were swapped, where business items was before the public hearing. Tonight we're going to swap that out, so business items are after the public hearing. We have item 7 is other business, and then 8 would be the either proposed executive and or deliberative session, and then we would adjourn. Okay. For the public to be heard. Yes, come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is David Scopin, and I live at 11 Skyline Drive. And I wanted to apologize to 4 members of the board. I meant to thank you for your vote that came recently. I thought it took great courage to do what you did, and I appreciate you rigorously adhering to the law of the land, the guiding principles that you work by. I do have a question here, and I'm hoping someone will be able to answer it. And it's a quote. We're disappointed with this decision as our proposal was developed through collaboration with town officials and staff and designed to comply with all the applicable regulations while also supporting local economic development goals and the needs of our customers in the Burlington area. It's something that Steve Kelly, apparently he is an Amazon spokesperson, and I was wondering if anyone had any knowledge of what he is talking about, because I'm kind of at a loss. So is anyone present?
You'll address me.
Staff or board members that?
So I believe as part of, and I'll let staff speak on this, but first I'll let you know that that as part of any application during any development whatsoever, the developer has an opportunity to work with all parts of town staff, Department of Public Works, and the rest of the staff as they're preparing their application. That does not mean that the town staff in any way, shape, or form informs specifically any developer what they need to do in order to get approved. Instead, it's a check-in about what the zoning regulations are. As you can imagine, not every developer knows the ins and outs of all town regulations. But I will allow staff, I'm asking staff if you have anything that you'd like to weigh in on that.
Sure. I would just say that I worked with the applicant, just like other applicants, to help them through the process.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. The other thing is something I probably should have under my belt by now, but my understanding is that you're basically a body that you have to adhere to. I would call them laws, and the laws are the regulations. Is that correct?
I believe we've had this conversation a few times.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know we have.
Correct.
But putting it in my own words is
Yep.
very helpful to me, so
Yep.
that I understand that when you make decisions, you're basically, to some degree, how would I put this? You're responsible for what you do. So along comes someone who challenges you, and then you have to be able to defend yourself. Is that correct? Defend the decision you have made, so that someone knows that you did indeed follow the laws according to what you think they are. Is that correct?
The Development Review Board, by design, follows the current and existing regulations for the town with all levels of development. We have to rule based on what those current regulations happen to be, and any application that's before us. We don't get into anything other than whether or not the application has met to our satisfaction the laws of the zoning. Correct.
Right.
And when we have an occasion where an application was not voted as approved, we do have to issue a written statement as to exactly why that we did not approve that application and what our basis was for that.
Right. And also, if someone decides that your approval broke some of the, I will call them laws rather than regulations, broke some of the laws, then they can challenge you, and you would then be in a position where you would have to defend.
That would be an environmental court. It becomes a whole new ball game outside of us. If somebody was if you wanted to, or if someone wanted to appeal a decision of something that we had approved, it then goes to the environmental court, and the environmental court weighs in on that as a totally separate matter.
Gotcha.
It has
And
nothing
you
to do with us.
Right. So you would not be involved. You
That
would
is
not
correct.
have to defend yourself.
That is correct.
Okay. That helps me a great deal because some of the language is not what I use in
Yep,
my daily
sure.
speech.
Yep,
So
that's fair.
thank you very much for
You're welcome. Thank you. Do you have anybody else here in the room that has anything that would like to say? Sure, come on up.
Hi, this is quick. Cheryl Van Epps, 8 Rustic Drive. Earlier this week, I just attended the Housing Commission's meeting. They are discussing that they are going to conduct a housing needs assessment, and I was going to notify you guys, let you know. They were wondering who to have as audience, and I was wondering if this board would be interested either in giving them input or finding out what the results were. I am just serving to pass on this information.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anyone else here in the room?
Somebody online.
Yep. Online? Do we have somebody online that's looking to speak today?
That's me.
Sure. Thank you. And your name and address, please.
Sure. Hi, Ann Miller, 60 Sydney Drive, Essex, Vermont. I'm a 10-year resident of the town.
Mhm.
I wanted to I try to come to these meetings as observers, as an observer, basically. And at the last meeting, there was a comment made. It was the Leo application that was being reviewed, and I don't really have a perspective on that, except that someone on the review board said that they were tired of hearing about traffic. There were 2 different people who had spoken about traffic. I don't even believe they live on the same road. I think one was a Center Road resident maybe, and one was a Sand Hill Road resident. But from my lay person's perspective, it seems like the projects that you approve or disapprove or allow or disallow, however you want to phrase that, those are the projects that may or may not be generating traffic. So is it incorrect for members of the public to bring their traffic concerns to you when they are related to development? It's a question because I really am ignorant of this aspect of the process.
I appreciate the question. I would imagine we could probably have staff follow up with you. I wasn't here last week, unfortunately, and I have watched the meeting, but I don't recall hearing that comment. So, yes.
And whether anybody, thank you for that answer.
Hang on one second.
Yeah. Okay.
I was here and I was one of the ones that made that basic comment, not to that exact detail, but my comment was that we were talking about traffic for an approved area or trying to make an approved development in an industrial zone. So industrial zone carries review and carries traffic studies. So my point at that meeting was the traffic discussion at that meeting was inappropriate and not warranted because it's an industrial zone, treated as an industrial zone. Every applicant that comes through is going to be measured and weighed for the use that comes in the door at that time.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, I appreciate the comment and
Approved. I mean, that level of application was approved.
Yeah, but
yep.
So that's
That's fine, and that's I appreciate the comment coming in, and we'll work to address that in the future.
Yeah. I was just asking as a matter of edification, right? To understand, is it appropriate or inappropriate for people to bring a comment? And I didn't speak at that meeting. I just didn't know. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anyone else online? Seeing no hands, seeing no one else in the room. Let us move on from public to be heard to I would take a motion to. Actually, I'm not going to open the motion yet for public hearing. See, I'm running into it. I take a week off, and I'm
hearing's already open.
Public
Continued.
It's continued, right? Exactly, exactly. So we'll move on to the next item that's on the agenda, which is the public hearing section. The first item that we have on the board is a continuation from February 6th, 2024. It's a preliminary plan for Pinewood Manor, Inc., and it's proposing a planned unit development residential located at 18 and 30 Timberlane Drive in the medium density residential or R2 district, consisting of 10 single-family homes and on individual lots. Single-family lots are assessed via a 20-foot wide access, via 20-foot wide shared private drives. So how this works is we'll start off with comments from staff first, and then we'll get to the applicant to have follow-up, and then we will have a section where the public can ask questions or join in. Kent, if you don't mind just giving us a quick rundown.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So the main difference is this came to us before as a 32 unit development. Now this is 10 units. The applicant was striving to reduce their impact to the steep slopes because that was a main concern previously, and they certainly have reduced their impacts to steep slopes because of this. But there's still considerable impacts to steep slopes that a waiver would need to be provided for. So I've tried to articulate what those impacts would be now. So basically of the 5.3 acres of land that they would plan to be disturbing for this development, 2.9 acres or 55% of that would be impacting steep slopes. So there are some other outstanding issues with this application, but I think the main issue at this point is, can the DRB provide a waiver for the impacts to steep slopes or not?
Okay. Thank you, Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Board members, questions for staff? Dusty? Hubie? Oh, did you have one?
No, not at the moment.
Sharon?
Staff report was pretty
Okay.
comprehensive.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I just want clarification. When we're talking steep slopes, are we talking the 15 to 20 or are we talking the over 20? I'm wondering, like, that for me is a key point.
With the most recent version, I did not see it differentiated between whether, which they previously did. They had the 15 to 20% slopes and then the 20% and over. On this most recent one, I don't believe they made a differentiation with that.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
Remind me, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in on that question as well, but remind me, a waiver is not necessary for 15%, and just for my benefit as well as the public, but it's not necessary for the
don't-
15%. It's not
I don't
advisable.
believe that it is.
It's
It's
20%.
discouraged.
Correct.
Yeah, that's why I was.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Anything else, Stephanie?
Nope.
Nick?
Not at this time.
All right, let's hear from the applicants. Gentlemen, how are you? Long time no see.
Great. Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a bit. So Brian Currier, O'Leary Burke Civil Associates, representing Pinewood Manor.
And Brian Mark.
Thank you.
So thank you for meeting us at the site visit at 5 o'clock today. We had a nice hike in the woods. It wasn't raining. Bit hot out there though. So we were in front of you. We were in front of the Planning Commission towards the end of last year. We had a 32 unit proposal that included a section of public road. It was roughly 900 feet long, terminated in a cul-de-sac, and had various triplex units, and then some also single families at the beginning. So it seemed like the Planning Commission wasn't crazy about the idea. As the town transitioned from a Planning Commission to the DRB, we decided to withdraw our application, and we basically, we resubmitted the exact same application to the Development Review Board, but with the idea of, we want to work with the board, we want to work with the town. We've had multiple iterations of this project stretching the better part of 3 years. Each time, we're pulling back on the proposal. So as part of that meeting in the early part of this year, we are proposing to remove the public road section of the project. So instead of a 32 unit project, we're down to 10 lots. Specifically, we're doing 2 clusters that are off of private driveways, 4 units apiece, and then 2 units off a smaller drive, shared drive still, off of Timberlane Drive. So in our view, we have substantially, made changes time and time again, but this has been the most dramatic, in the interest of working with the town. This is a specific or a long-standing development in town. Obviously, it took a little while to get off 117 to the project site. I say at every meeting, we did start at Section A. This is now I. The development started in the 70s. As part of the master planning of Pinewood Manor, certain infrastructure pieces were carried through the development in the interest of continuously building out Pinewood Manor. For instance, we're in the town sewer core. You saw today the amount of public infrastructure that are on the roads: municipal water, municipal sewer, public roads, pedestrian facilities, power, gas. Everything that the town plan says is where development should be concentrated. Not on the countryside, but it should be concentrated within your sewer core, which typically includes all of those facilities. So in our view, this proposal best balances the Planning Commission and then the DRB's desires from our earlier meeting, where you folks did say that this seemed like a path that was worth going down. That's how we took it anyway. So from then until now, we revised the plans. What I went through at our last meeting was, basically going through the public road removal and then other minor tweaks, but essentially the minor tweaks in the public road were all being done to limit our footprint of the development. And basically what you folks said was, all right, revise the plans, removing the public road piece of it, put it through the town departments, and come back to us, and we set up a site visit, which we did today. So, here we are. And what I would add to some of the numerical steep slope conversation is, so it's stated 2.9 acres of steep slopes are being impacted. So that does include 15 to 20 and 20 plus. All right, so only 20% and above is 2.05 acres. So roughly an acre of 15 to 20% slopes is included in that number. Again, discouraged, but not something necessarily, or not something that requires a waiver. And then on top of that, you'll notice at our last visit, or our last area, we started in the middle, then we went to the north, and then we ended on Timberlane Drive. That portion of the project lies in a previously developed area. All right, so there's two existing structures. It's in the old workshop and construction staging area from the old parts of Pinewood Manor, owned by the Marcotte family throughout the years. So what I pointed out was the vast majority of slopes in those areas contributing to that 2.05 acres are man-made. So we're starting to get a pretty clear, let's say, feedback from the DRB that man-made slopes should not be part of the waiver process as far as impacts go. That area contributes about half an acre of steep slopes to our total as well. So as we're peeling back the onion, we're really talking about 1.5 acres of what the town determines 20% and over steep slopes. As we walked around the property today, I pointed out portions of what I would call steep slopes, steep embankments, steep top of slopes that are sustained, continuous slopes, not undulations of land, not more minor drainage ways, but what I would consider to be sustained slopes that we don't feel should be impacted and we're not proposing to impact. I pointed out on numerous occasions the master plan showed a lot more roadway network than we're proposing now, and we're anxious to hear the board's feedback.
Thank you. Board members, questions for the applicants? Nick, I'll start with you.
Okay. Question. Some of the drives that lead to particularly site plan B and A.
Nick, do you know what ones? Can you pull up the plans? Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. Has the applicant considered safety measures on those curves in the driveway? Meaning fences, something that might discourage vehicles that may go off the road, off the driveway.
Yeah, so it is a driveway. It's not a road, but we'd certainly be open to boulders or some sort of small guardrail. I think there might be only maybe a 50-foot section where that may be warranted. But it is a 20-foot roadway. The inside of the loop is entirely within a cut. There's only one spot, and it gets near a top of slope, but certainly doesn't cross it, where, we could certainly consider some sort of safety feature in that area.
Did you have a particular page you want me to go to?
Sheet 5.
That's fine.
Sheet 5.
Sheet 5.
So this is a cut all along here. This is a cut. This is the part where I'm saying, I think a consideration for a guardrail or boulders or something like that could certainly be warranted.
Wonderful. I'd like to hear more thoughts on the staff comments and some of the concerns that staff has reported. So if you would like, I can just go down a list. Okay.
Yep.
The remaining open area, the remaining large tract of land.
Yep.
How will that be accessed, and will there be any maintenance on that?
Yep. So the parcel's about 117 acres. The development footprint is roughly 5 acres of that 117 acres. All right. So what we're proposing with the balance is to be open space. How exactly it's managed, we're certainly open to board's input. Is it going to be managed by specifically the Section I resident? Is it going to be managed by Pinewood Manor in its entirety? I think it's used pretty extensively by Pinewood Manor folks now. Maybe the area around the Section I units is held individually with that HOA, but the area closer to the circ could certainly be dedicated to Pinewood Manor, the master association out there. I know there are some town trails that are mapped through that area where no easements currently exist today. They're basically used because Brian chooses not to post his property. We could certainly provide public easements across those town trails. So I could easily see it as a mix of the three. I think the area immediately around the units likely would be held by the association, the greater area by Pinewood Master Association, and then those town plan trails, I think public easements would be a requirement of the town anyway. But I think the access point would be where we park for Timberlane Drive, that existing logging road that's down that way. I don't think it would make sense to access off of the driveways. Previously on our other layout, we had the access off the end of the cul-de-sac, which was a town road. So as that's been removed, I think it makes sense to keep the access off of a town road rather than the private infrastructure.
Right. There's existing roads that are there, and it would be a major loss if the landowner wasn't open to that.
Absolutely, yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah. And as it is a PUD, that comes along with it, right? I mean, we're clustering development where we feel it should be clustered, and creating a large balance of open space to be dedicated to whom? I think, there's something to work out there, but
Sure.
And to further expand on that, my intention is what's been privately owned land can become land that I dedicate and say a blanket easement to be officially enjoyed by all. I could, Parks and Rec can weigh in on that. They obviously, it's their specialty, but I'm open to the lands to be enjoyed without hesitation in the future. Right now, it's been just an extension of generosity, just to allow people to go in there. It's just nice walking.
Thank you. What's the consideration of expanding the driveways to 24-foot wide rural roads versus the 20 currently proposed?
Yep. And so that's something that we haven't changed at all. I was a little curious where that came from. With the Planning Commission, it was determined that through PUD standards, and everyone weighed in on it. Planning and zoning, fire department, public works. Through PUD regulations, you're allowed to modify dimensional standards. So units off a driveway was determined to be one of the units, or one of the standards that the planning commission chose to modify. We are bringing public water to the sites, including hydrants at the end. That's what the fire chief said he wanted in order to allow for 4 units off of the 20-foot wide driveway. As you know, there are areas in town where 4 units off a driveway are allowed. Typically, they're in the scenic resource protection district. But in this case, the 20-foot wide roadway was specifically designed, worked through with the town to try and minimize the footprint to those units to the greatest extent possible. So that's something that I wasn't expecting comments on, as I felt that issue had been pretty well discussed and talked about over the past year and a half. I'd also mentioned Public Works talks about building a public road section also to the end of the right-of-way on Stone Brook. In both instances, it's about 100 feet. Or they say we can modify the right-of-way and build our driveway like we're planning on doing. And we would certainly plan on modifying, doing boundary line adjustment so the town wouldn't have a right-of-way over where the private driveways are.
Okay.
Those are the 2 spots I saw those.
Traffic study. Last one was done in 2021. Is there anticipation of completing another one?
I saw Public Works requested that. I'd also say in 2021, the traffic study was done for, I believe it was even the development before 32 units, which I think was 48. So happy to reassess it with Public Works if deemed necessary, but I think there's more than just the date on the traffic study. I think it's for the larger proposal, certainly not the 10. It's for much, it's from a 40 unit development proposal, not a 10 unit development proposal. But if they want us to rerun the numbers for 10, we certainly can do that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all that I have at this time.
Thank you, Nick. I'm going to go to Trevor. I want to make sure that I include Trevor, who's online.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Trevor. Stephanie?
Yeah. I have a question about your erosion control plan if we were to provide you with the waiver for the impact of over 20% steep slopes. As we do have a memo from Public Works back in, I think it was like 2021, about Section H failing its erosion control plan.
Yep.
And the way that it read to me was that the applicant wasn't as on top of getting in there and fixing it as the town would have liked to have seen until they pulled the state in.
Yep.
So for me, that's a concern. If I were to vote to approve a waiver when we had a failure of erosion control before, what would be different this time?
Yeah. And I think that's a fair criticism. So I would say Section H is the newest section of Pinewood we drove through today. Certainly a different scale than what we're doing now. I'll also say that that project was originally approved in 2001?
Yeah, 2002.
2002. And as the subdivision doesn't expire, it was built in 2020, or it was designed in approved in 2022 with 2002 safeguards. So if that plan set even had an erosion control plan, I would be surprised. All right, so things have changed substantially from then until now. Essentially, we have a state erosion control permit already for the 32 unit project. That permit does not allow us to open up more than 5 acres at a time. So with Section H, we could open up an entire right-of-way plus the lots. And I think the first half of the loop was done in phase 1 and the second half of the loop was done in phase 2. So the amount of area to maintain is a significant piece of, erosion control plan. So being 5 acres at a time, essentially that limits the developer to build one of those clusters at a time. Get it closed up, get it stabilized, and then move to the next spot. They can't open up all three at the same time, which I think is a very significant change from a 2002 sort of plan. And then the town also in their comments in the staff report cite two sections that didn't exist when Section H went in. One is a third party, so they can have Brian hire a third party to conduct, regular erosion control specifications. And then they cite another section in their public works specifications that talk about violations, fines, and enforcement actions that they can take now. That I don't know if it was part of the public works specifications back then, Sharon. You'd probably know more than I would, but
I think more their policy.
more that, yeah, I think now it's their policy,
both.
but before it was likely just you, would be my guess.
And
So-
even a stop order,
Yeah.
as,
That's certainly part of it.
yeah,
Only had to do one of those.
one too many.
So I think,
Not in Pinewood.
so the scale is much different. The amount of impact is more isolated. The safety nets are more robust than they were back then. And our erosion control plan has hydro seeding, it has matting, it has riprap. Our erosion control plan not only was reviewed and there's minimal comments about the erosion control plan from Public Works, but also Hamlin Engineers, another third-party reviewed our erosion control plan, and asked us to make it more prescriptive rather than just saying erosion control matting shall be used. Show us where it's going to be. So that's what our erosion control plan has now. So I think it's quite different than Section 8.
Thanks.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Sharon?
I have some of the same concerns as Nick and Stephanie mentioned. I'll start with the open space. It doesn't seem like there's any indication at all of how it's going to be used, sort of, or easements, or I think I read that the trails on the town plan should be designated. I think a lot of that is supposed to be a preliminary plan, from what I understand. Traffic study 2021 was during the pandemic, so I don't know. I'm not much of a traffic study person.
The traffic studies were done in that time frame.
Yeah.
We used pre-pandemic numbers.
Okay.
As far as background traffic goes, that was common practice.
Okay.
Yep.
And I was reading the concern of the fire department about the steep slopes, is saying it's going to be very difficult to do rescue because of the.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite sure from reading their statement. It kind of sounds like they assume that roads and driveways are going to be all 15%. Certainly, the grading around homes in Pinewood existing now, exceed 15%. A very, I'll say, conservative mowable slope is 1 on 3, which is a 30% slope.
Right.
So I think the 15% common is more geared towards thinking that might be the roadway standards, which they're certainly not.
I was picturing access to the homes, but
Yeah, so town driveway standards are 14%, which we are less than.
okay.
So I wasn't quite sure what to make of it. I know that they were certainly part of our original discussions about the 20-foot shared driveways being utilized to minimize, our footprint. And their only request was they had comments about the triplex buildings, them being situated close to the road, which was fine, but now the triplex is not part of it. But they just wanted hydrants at the end of our driveways. So I personally think the comment may be off base. I'm not entirely sure what.
Maybe we can get some feedback on that.
Maybe not. Maybe off base is the wrong term, but I'm not sure what to make of it. I don't know where 15% grading around a home they're talking about. 15% grade as far as proposed slope is very, very mild.
Okay. And the other question I have, which staff can correct me, Ken, did you say that the slopes weren't indicated on the new plans? Like how much was 15%? Did I misunderstand that?
Right. I believe that you didn't differentiate on the plans the difference between the 15 to 20% slopes and the greater than 20. Is that what you?
Yeah, and I think
Is
it's
that what
really
you mean?
important because I'd like to take someone's word, but I just like to sort of
I think it
actually
was
see it.
the waiver request that we combined. I think we provided the.
Okay, let me look
You
through
know,
the
it's quite
plans.
colorful, yellow, blue.
give me-
green, green.
Give me a second here. Let me look here. Yep. Okay. Here we go. So this shows the differentiation of the slopes, just not in the numbers that were provided
Okay.
for doing the calculation.
And sheet 2 is really the key, I think.
Yeah, that's helpful. And then the other thing is the hydro seeding that was mentioned. I think it wasn't really indicated where that was going to happen and how it was going to be done in
Yep.
the plans.
You want to go to EPSC Plan 3?
Go as fast as I can. Ah. Come on. Which number?
Go up one, please.
To the
So the areas hatched red
Going to be the hydro seeding.
are primarily the proposed steeper portions of our grading. So those are the areas we've highlighted for hydro seeding.
Okay. And then I guess there was the tree issues that has to be adjusted for the landscaping. I don't think that's a major thing.
Yeah, the trees, remind me.
On the forced water main for lots
main.
1 and 3, and then I guess the evergreens on steep slope next to 5 and 8. It's too steep for that kind of.
Okay, yeah, we'll certainly adjust the grading plan as the town tree warden or public works wants.
And that's all for me.
Hubie.
Yeah, well, we're on the erosion control issue and so on. You indicate hydro seeding there. You're not including erosion matting also? I mean, those are really steep slopes for just hydro seeding.
So I believe in our specifications, we call out, hydro seeding is an incredible product.
Oh, I know, I've been involved with it.
Yeah, hydro seeding, and you see these gray lines inside? Those are wattles. So essentially they're meant to, so you hydro seed
Right.
the whole bank.
Yeah.
And then you put the straw wattles in to stop longitudinal, water flow.
Right.
So they're meant to slow down water, say in every 20-foot section. So it gives the hydro seeding time to take root, though it doesn't take very long. You can grow a thick mound on concrete.
I'm surprised you're not using erosion matting on those real steep slopes and so on. When's the criteria when you start using erosion matting?
In my view, hydro seeding is superior to erosion matting.
So I've had some experience with hydro seeding, and I know that a lot of it depends on who's running that nozzle. Okay, and so what kind of controls do you have to make sure that you're getting the right application of seed and mulch so that you're going to get an effective product? That's just, and I'm not necessarily asking you to answer that. I'm just saying that's something that is important to be aware of.
Yep. Now we do have municipal water right nearby, so
Yeah.
it's not like we're coming off a water truck or anything like that, right? So we're not in some rural area where hydro seeding can be tough in rural areas if you don't have good access to water. Essentially, pull off a water tanker truck,
Right.
which you have a limited supply on, so you might pull back somewhat on what comes out. But essentially, we have an infinite amount of water to use out here. And Public Works did ask for a specification sheet to go along with the hydro seeding.
Okay, good.
It's the same product we work with them on for the construction of Chemo Drive. So we'll just make sure it's part of the plan sheet. I haven't looked at it to see if there's an application rate on it, but I bet you there is.
Yeah, I know there's all the issues of the product, application rate, follow the recommendations of the equipment supplier, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, it can be, I agree with you that it can be very good, but it can also not be so good if it's not done right.
And when we work with a
Yeah.
supplier, our, will be performance based, and my experience, those people don't like coming back.
On sheet 2, could we look at sheet 2 again? Site plan west. Yeah, as we're coming to sheet 2, that one of the things that's one of the great mysteries is exactly how steep slopes are calculated. Okay, and the site plan west 2 map there. We've got these yellows and greens, and so it's quite clear to me that you have located the units 1 through 4, 5 through 8 on the areas where there seems to be the most concentration of green. And it seems to be that they're also interspersed with spots of yellow. Is that sheet 2 that we're looking at there?
Yeah.
So, again, it's clear to me that you have tried to locate these units on those areas that are more green than blue. So when calculating slopes, like for 5, 6 through 8, for example, there's a lot of green, but there's a lot of little yellow spots in there and so on. So is that just the undulations of the land?
Yeah.
What?
This
I mean,
goes into, drum I've been beating about steep slopes lately, is the land is not perfect. The accuracy of LiDAR data.
okay, so this is based on LiDAR
is
then.
extremely accurate, and then when you couple that with AutoCAD, surface triangulation networks, and computers generating these maps, what you get is the slight undulation of land that shows exactly what we're talking about, or that you're talking about. Well, when you walk out there, it seems relatively flat, right? I mean, like this area, sure, there's some speckling of yellow within there, but it's primarily less than 15%. Now this area through here, those are certainly
Right.
sustained, it's primarily blue. And when you go out there, this big ridge line right here where we walk through the saddle of it, that's all primarily blue. The only part that's got some speckling is the very top. This area right here is a wetland, generally flat. And I think this plan shows how just blanketly saying 15 to 20% or 20% is just too general of a standard. It doesn't give the applicant enough to design a plan strictly without it. I can do a map on like this generally anywhere in town, and I'm going to find areas that are 20%, but I don't believe that's what the intention of the rules are.
So the calculations that you've come up with have been, LiDAR has provided that calculation.
LiDAR and AutoCAD. Yep.
So, for example, is LiDAR picking up a stump?
LiDAR generally penetrates organic materials. It bounces off water, but it generally goes through. That's why you don't get like tree canopies. It penetrates organics until it hits something solid.
Okay, so for example, if there was a, I noticed walking out there were numerous old tree stumps,
Yep.
2 feet in diameter from a previous harvest and so on, that stick up a couple feet.
Yep.
Would LiDAR hit that and then show that downslope of that stump as greater than 20%?
As far as I know it generates a tree canopy. I know it's not picking up trunks of trees. An old stump that's been there for 10 years.
Right.
I can't say for certain one way or the other.
Or an old log that's laying on the ground.
Sure.
Okay, that sticks up there 2 feet.
Yep.
And it drops off.
Yep.
That's more than 20. I'm curious about what the technology really is picking up and where the calculation comes from. So,
Yeah.
because the map, this map quite clearly shows that the layout has avoided the 20% areas, and it's the question is how to calculate the percentage of the green yellow areas and so on. So
Yeah, and appreciate that feedback. That's certainly been our goal going through this process. And as I've stated in past meetings, this is the only section of Pinewood that has this level of planning behind it as a PUD. This is the only PUD that Pinewood has ever seen. Pinewood traditionally has always been a traditional subdivision. 100-foot frontage lots with no open space. Like if you look at section H, right? All you're basically doing is taking the outer boundary, offsetting the depth of the lot, and you're creating a loop. That's how that was designed. It wasn't designed around slopes. It wasn't designed to minimize your footprint. And look at the difference of that compared to what we're trying to do here. I mean, it is totally a different ballgame.
yeah, I know that LiDAR will pick up stone walls, for example. Will pick up cellar holes and so on. So so those are in essence artificially created slopes potentially. Okay. So yeah.
And I think those again, a boulder certainly.
Yeah.
A log, I'm not sure, but those minor differences aren't going to make up the difference here. They're not going to make up the difference here. They're not going to make up the difference here or here. You know, where it is clearly sustained steep slopes, they're showing up primarily blue.
Yep.
Which I think is the intent.
Curious about lots 9 and 10 that are down off the other end there. How come they're not going on town sewer? Why are they on the septic system?
That end of Pinewood is in the sewer core, but the closest manhole is quite a ways up Windridge?
Windridge.
Windridge.
Oh, so it's more effective to have a
when we had the cul-de-sac, or when that road was connecting through, or when we were building the cul-de-sac down that way, we considered, you know, because there's a pump station there to pump back for municipal sewer. But when those infrastructure pieces, you know, impacted too much, we decided that the best fit in that end of the neighborhood, which all the houses are on site septic, unfortunately.
Another question on the existing roadway for well, I guess it's a Stony Brook Circle that extends into lots 1, 2, and 3 there. That where, as you say, things are stubbed out and so on. Currently, the plans show the town right of way ending in there about 50 feet or so, something like that. I'm just curious that maybe it's a minor thing, but you know, as far as snow plowing and maintenance of that section, just as a suggestion that maybe that right of way changes, reverts back to Pinewood, whatever.
So the town in their comments basically said, you can build the public road to the limit of the right of way, or made it easy for us, or you can adjust the right of way, do a boundary line adjustment essentially from the town if it's been accepted, right? So right of ways are dedicated to the town, irrevocable offers of dedication are written. Whether or not that's been acted on for that specific stub or not, I'm not sure. It might still be in the ownership of Pinewood Manor, and this all may be moot. But they're basically saying either adjust the right of way back to the limit of the road where it is now, or build the town road to the limit of the right of way, which obviously we don't intend.
Okay, so it's not a problem. It's something that is going to be resolved, and there's not going to be some big harangue about the town's got to plow 50 feet of roadway.
Our driveways are purposefully on one end of the other. It's a 30-foot wide road.
Yeah.
Our driveway's on one end of the other.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's all I have at this point.
Thank you.
Dusty.
One question. How much acreage is impacted? 21% and above is impacted.
We ran it based on the town standards that are 20% and greater.
Well, 15 to 20 is discouraged but allowed. 20, over 20 is disallowed. So that's all I was wondering, how much is greater than 20?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying like that. I'm
Nope,
sorry.
all I want to know is
Okay,
how much is greater than 20.
So over 20 was 2.05 of 2.9 acres. So the 2.9 number is both, or is, I guess, 15 to 20%, or 15. I'm sorry.
2.9 is 15 and above.
There you go. And 2.05 is 20 and above.
And a portion of that was man-made.
Well, okay, that I actually had a different question. I should have asked it. How much natural slope greater than 20% is in this proposal?
1.5.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Trevor, I just want to make sure you had an opportunity. There's a lot of discussion here, so.
No, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that being said, and no further questions, yes, sir.
I just wanted to add earlier to the hydro seeding question, lessons learned from the H section. Soils, don't just, with the hydro seeding, well, also the soils up there especially need to be amended so to increase the growth and germination and longevity. The soils aren't just not that great. Just hydro seed and hope, they maintain themselves. So we've learned that, and amending the soils is certainly something to go with.
Okay.
This next time.
Thank you. Sharon, that looks like it prompted a question.
Yes.
I'll recognize Sharon.
Thank you. So what you're saying is it's pretty sandy there, right? And erosive?
It's a very loomy soil. Also very it's sandy, but it's also
I think what's
but
there, because it's sort of like what Alderbrook is further down, is sand on top, clay underneath, which can really create a lot of erosion, which is what I'm looking at those pictures of the problems years ago.
yeah, sand is it's great when we have the sand. That's typically
Well, sand and clay are a problem though, because water rushes very quickly through and then hits the clay and.
But yeah, but the sand for the drainage excavation,
Yeah.
Those are typically in our the higher points in that section. So, but it's a silty soil.
And I was also looking, the road to 5 and 8 looks like it's pretty close to 20% slopes, and then lots 5, 8, and 4, the rendition of the houses look also pretty close to 20% slopes. I don't know if that's considered disturbing when you're right up to them.
Well, I think we've stated that we are impacting an acre and a half of,
Right.
of steep slopes. Primarily, it's along the drives. I'll say that the units shown are pictorial, but the building envelopes do not cross over the
Yeah.
top of slopes, which, we're planning on avoiding. There's
Gotcha.
no reason to build a house right on the top of.
That'd be crazy. And also, I just have to point out that we keep saying 15% are just discouraged. We should be discouraging, not just assuming that.
Discouraged isn't prohibited.
But it's also, we have a duty to discourage it anytime we can to prevent erosion. And
I think.
why even have
Don't
the regulation?
don't. This isn't the place to lecture me about it.
Why even have the regulation?
Well, we're proposing 10 units. After the Homes Act, the densities on this 100-acre parcel in your sewer core is 500 units.
Right.
So if doing 10 instead of 500, now obviously 500 is not possible. We all
Right.
know that. But
It
to
is
say
reduced. I
We're
agree.
not discouraging development on this part. I can't say that, that's not the case. I mean,
Right.
I think the application speaks for itself as far as how much development is being proposed here.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I believe this is in keeping with the town's vision there to be more of a rural setting, and Pinewood is a unique opportunity, an increasingly rare opportunity these days to continue in a development. it's not perfect, but it's in the sewer core and it's set back. It's not in the vision of most people. It's tucked away, but it offers that great community bond that was wonderful growing up in, and you have long time connections with people, and I just like the opportunity here doesn't come along very often. So looking at the town's vision of rural, I mean, this does fit it. We do have slopes and we have a lot of trees. So, but, responsibly cutting the trees. We had to cut more in the H section because the slopes were far more. It'll be greatly reduced here because of our footprint and the topography.
Thank you. Any further questions here from the board? Nick?
Yes, we've heard reference to plans or section H. This, we're discussing section I. What about section J and beyond? Is this the end of the development, or is there intent to continue?
Is it J?
J, yeah.
So J is the area behind Hanging Drive, backs up to Lane Farm. All right, so Sharon, you might need to help me here. But my understanding is the town select, or Brian knows too, the town select board passed. Well, the access to J was supposed to be off the end of Rustic and Lane Farm, but I believe that select board passed a resolution years ago that there would never be access from Lane Farm to Pinewood. So the primary access to section J is Lane Farm, which, as far as we're concerned, is it possible? So could at one point in time another access point from Lane Farm, present itself? Maybe, but you're talking about buying a house and knocking it down. I mean, which in today's housing market is just not possible. But section J is certainly part of the master plan, but there's
very
significant
very
issues with
flat
moving
up
forward.
there, but we can't come off. Maybe 30 years ago, 20 even, we could come across off from Rustic there on the corner, Rustic and Wildwood, but there's a full-blown stream crossing there and everything, and the terrain there is formidable. So it's really not something to
It's
pursue.
part of the
Everyone-
plateau where Lane Farm was built.
Yeah.
So access would have to come from Lane Farm. Currently, there is no access.
There's a pedestrian access.
There's pedestrian access, certainly.
Thank you.
Which GPS will lead you to as a cut through. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. Just one quick question for me, and then we'll get to the public. We've talked a lot about the 20% slopes. Just the roadways or the driveways that you're putting through. How much of the overall acreage that you're talking about is actually driveway and not the building envelopes?
I don't have that number, but having worked on these plans for a number of years, a significant portion of the 2 acres. I would say probably 4/5 of that.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from board? Okay. As this is a continuation, the public hearing is still open. We will now have an opportunity for those that are here in the room with us and those that are online have an opportunity to ask questions of the board and the applicants. Is there anybody here in the room that would like to have something to ask? Yes, sir. Can you stand up, repeat your name and your address, and just come up if you would? I think. Yeah, we'll just turn the mic. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is David Scopin, 11 Skyline Drive. I didn't really have a lot of time to prepare for this. I'm assuming we have more hearings so that we, the public, can go through the applicant's proposal in more detail. One of the things I remember from the past was the fact that there is something in our, I'll call them our laws, that has to do with how much of the land that's going to be developed needs to be disturbed to get to, in this case, it would be the houses. And it seems to me, in this particular case, you may be disturbing an awful lot of land just to build these driveways. To get to the, I believe, half-acre lots, are the lots half-acre?
We have a property plat. I said that on our walk without knowing the exact sizes, but I have to look at the property plat to give you the exact lot ranges.
Okay, this particular member of the public doesn't know some of the terminology, so if
Yep.
things can be explained.
Yeah, a property plat is essentially a property survey. So on our plat, it has a label on every lot, and it has the dimensions, and it has the sizes of those lots.
Gotcha. So I'm assuming that each lot would be approximately a half acre. Is that correct?
They vary in size, and like I just said,
But on average.
again,
Okay. So we.
and I think the size of the lots can be misleading. The building envelopes are substantially smaller than the lots. Like the first one off the northern end of Stonebrook Circle, that's a pretty good sized lot. The lots at the end of Stonebrook are 3 or 4 acres, maybe. These ones, 2 or 3, maybe.
No, not that big. But
Yeah.
just over an
Okay,
acre.
so say an acre and a half. Our building envelope is probably, a few thousand square feet. So I don't think lot is a great indicator of, I think, what you're trying.
Okay. I guess the other question would be, in some cases, it seems that building nowadays is you take a piece of land, you take everything off it, and you put your building on it. When I did the walk today, I got the impression that if you were able to sneak in there on a very narrow trail, you'd be able to leave a great many things intact. If you come in and make a 20-foot wide swash, but actually end up being a 40-foot wide swatch, you're basically going to be destroying a great deal of what is currently stabilizing that piece of land. Now, I hate to bring up something that pisses some people off, but we're not faced with the same weather going into the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years that we have had for the last 100 years. And it seems to me that if we don't take certain things into consideration, down the road, we may wonder why we made the decision we made. But I'm hoping that some of us will have the opportunity to go through this in more detail and more clearly articulate some of our concerns and opposition to this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any hands online.
Okay, no hands online. Anyone else here in the room? Yes? Come on up if you would. Yep.
I have, hi, Cheryl Van Epps, 8 Rustic Drive. I had some questions about what was said and also what's in the staff report. I'll start off with the first one. I had a question about a line that was said on page 13 of the staff report. I'll read it to you. All stormwater infrastructure will remain private. It is recommended that an inspection and maintenance plan be provided for the homeowners association in the legal document. I am a member of the Pinewood Manor Homeowners Association. I was just wondering, what does that mean? I wasn't aware our association was regulatory. I know we're supposed to abide by the covenants, but I'm just wondering how does that look, basically?
Go ahead. Sorry.
So basically, this project qualifies for a state stormwater discharge permit. So when you apply for a state stormwater discharge permit, you have to pay annual fees, and you also have to have annual inspections. Every 5 years, a professional engineer has to write a renewal or a restatement of compliance in a renewal application, something our office does quite regularly. So what they're referring to is a requirement in the state stormwater regulation or the permit that requires the inspections and requires maintenance plans. And as far as it being private and to the association, the intent is not to dedicate those features to the master Pinewood association. It would be an association specific to either section I or each cluster on their own. So it would be independent of Pinewood Manor in its entirety.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I heard mention of the Homes Act, and it's my understanding that there's a push for affordable housing. And one of my questions was, and I want to say something before I wait for an answer for it. My question is, what is going to be the price, the listed price of these houses? I want to express that as a homeowner on Rustic Drive, I see a high frequency of roof replacement. I know for my own case, our roof was supposed to have lasted 25, 30 years, and it only lasted 10 years with moss growing and curling of the asphalt shingles. What other things? Driveways need to be frequently resealed or repaved. We have icy roads, so maintain snow plowing. Landscaping, tree pruning costs thousands of dollars for all of our trees or to take them down. Sinkholes are an issue for many of us residents. Pests, wildlife, moisture, mold and rot. Because of where we live, it's surrounded by high trees you've seen. It's a very moist area. And these are expenses that can cost a homeowner thousands, if not tens of thousands. Some of our residents had a major event happen, and that took quite a bit out of their pocket. So with that affordable housing, I hope we are considering those additional expenses over just the price of the house. So I'll wait for your answer on the what are we going to be looking at for the listing prices for these homes?
Yeah. So I would say.
Hang on, do we entertain that?
We don't.
Oh,
it's not.
okay.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's not the purview of Development Review Board to understand what the houses are going to be selling for.
Okay. I'll ask that you just put that in mind when thinking of providing housing to provide for the needs, Vermonters' needs for housing. I also wanted to talk about the soil erosion. I grow a garden, and I know from experience the soil is very sandy. We do not have topsoil. Neighbors who have lived there since the late 1960s, our homes are that old. Our yards, if we do not provide fertilizer, become a sand pit. And this is established homes. So this still happens. So we have not been able to accumulate nutrients, the detritus, that layer of the topsoil. We aren't able to keep that. So when applying the hydro seeding and the, I would hope that the folks conducting that will take a look at the bike path and see how it's still to this day lacks vegetation on those steep slopes. I would hope we would take those lessons learned and make improvements on that. So I'm going through my items to say, and I wanted to say also, I want us to consider Pinewood Manor is a high maintenance neighborhood. If you look at the capital budget reports, the annual reports, the See-Click Fix reports, I viewed Google Group, our emails that we distribute around my neighborhood. We have some hot spots that are still requiring repairs, multiples within, I saw one person quoted 5 times a road needed repaving within 12 years of their living there. I would hope that we would take into consideration how our previous builds are requiring town services, and that is costing townspeople as far as taxes, and also the homeowner. It costs them out of their pocket too. I'll leave it at that, and I didn't hear the answer to David Scopin's question. Will we have an opportunity to provide more comments?
Appreciate the questions, and as I recall, this is either going to be approved this evening, approved with conditions this evening, or would be possibly continued or not approved this evening. It would either be a continuation or it will be decided this evening.
Either way,
It's just preliminary.
It's preliminary. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
it's preliminary.
final.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to assume we will have.
There would be
opportunity.
additional opportunities. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Sarah Peak. I just was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about lots 9 and 10. Maybe put the map up. Just walking around it
What-
tonight, it just felt.
What's your question? We'll get the map up, but what's your question?
I think my question is I guess I have a hard time explaining asking my question, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to say, how are the two lots, how are the homes on those two lots positioned on the land currently as it stands now? And does it work itself into how the current neighborhood lots are positioned now? Or is it going to act like its own little road down in there? Or it also felt like the back lot, it has such a steep slope behind it that goes right to the river. And it just felt, when I was walking the land, I just felt like, how can they put a house back here? So I guess that's what I'm asking is.
Yeah, so we did cite them with the neighbors in mind. So there's a strip here that we're leaving open to this homeowner right here. And then there's this drainage way. This is the town catch basin network that outlets to this point. They've since run a line further down. But the top of the bank is, follow my finger here, is more or less right here. So we're citing the buildings well above the slope of that slope. So, where people were looking over the edge or congregating in this area, seeing some of the erosion that came out of this 1970s town stormwater system. Generally, the existing structure is somewhere in this area. So there's a home, on the upper side, generally where that wood shop is, and then there's a home generally where that metal shed is.
Yeah,
But
thank
yeah, essentially it'd be an extension of Windridge, but instead of a public road, it's a 15-foot wide private driveway. But we don't back up to any neighbors. There's a pretty good distance. Like if you're out there and you see the drainage path there, we're not going to be in that. Essentially, the driveway follows the existing driveway. But as I said there, the existing driveway is a little too steep to meet town standards. So we're going to pick it up a little bit in order to meet the 14% driveway standards through here. But essentially, there's two structures there now.
Yeah.
Two.
I mean, this is my, I mean, I don't know if personal opinion comes into play here, but I feel like that space, that lot, in order to match the whole surrounding homes, to me, it just feels like a one house corner. I to me, a little driveway down in there, that whole piece of land is real funky in there.
And it's not, and I agree, it is somewhat different than
It's
that end of Pinewood.
It is.
Basically what I was saying before, it's a traditional subdivision. Big, 100-foot frontages, about twice as deep.
Yeah, this changes the feel.
Well, I did something very similar to that on Stonebrook. Lot, house number 22 and 24, but they go down on their own shared private
And you
drive.
can't see them.
You can't see
They're
them. There's
hidden.
two
They're
up
way down low.
there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are.
Could you speak to the board, please?
Yeah.
This one's pretty low.
Still,
But what I would say,
a house like 10 is going to be.
That's a funky lot. Yeah.
Tucked away. You're going to see. Maybe
what I would say, where it differs from the rest of Pinewood,
Yeah.
is it's a 117 acre parcel. Instead of road networks and those traditional Pinewood lots being built up towards to 75 lots, essentially in a PUD style development, which this is, we can serve a significant amount of open space. And in exchange, we basically clustered development in higher densities in areas where the town feels development should occur. So the reason it's denser on that corner is because we're pulling from 100 acres of density,
Yeah.
leaving primarily open space, where Pinewood traditionally is no open space. Traditional subdivision, 100-foot lots, 200-foot depths, single family style. So it's a different type of neighborhood, but it's not too far different from a lot of the developments we're doing today where homes are, 10 feet apart.
I think it sacrifices the home that is there now. And it just changes the feel of that whole corner.
It's been a balancing act. to try
Yeah,
to
I'm sure.
to try to reach.
Should we have
Can we-
conversations with the board?
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry.
that's all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good information, but a lot of back and forth. It
Yeah.
didn't include us at all. So
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I think I just wanted to bring that up, and thank
we
you very much.
appreciate your questions and comments. Thank you. Was there anybody online yet, or no?
I haven't seen
Okay.
any hands.
All right.
Oh,
Oh.
up there's a hand.
Ryan Smith, can I recognize you, please? Can you state your name and address? Well, we know who you are, but
Yeah, my name is Ryan Smith. I'm
Ryan,
in the
can you
newer
just,
section.
before you start, Ryan, I just want to remind that we did have an oath at the beginning, and I'm trying to recall whether or not you actually had taken the oath.
I didn't know how to raise my hand until I just learned.
Sure. So
But
then
I'm
I'll just
happy to-
ask you the quick question. Do you affirm that the evidence you're giving in the cause that's under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you.
Address, Brian?
Your address again, please.
I just
Your
I
address
just want
again,
the
please.
board to kind of recognize the efforts that Brian's made. As they said, they've learned from their mistakes in the past, and they've made significant adjustments to this plan to try and make it work. It is a balancing act, and it seems like they're doing right by the folks in Pinewood as they have for many years. So I don't know. I think it's a balancing act. We do need more housing. And it seems like they've made a pretty significant compromise to protect the natural aspects of the land and to work around the changing development regulations. I'm assuming at great cost to them to make it all work. So that's my public comment is just to, you know, really look at the efforts they're making and kind of like understand that, like, at the end of the day, not everyone's going to be happy, you know, with the outcome, but like, we do need more housing. It seems like this is a good compromise. And, you know, as far as like affordable housing and whatnot, you know, they did have some lots, in the original plan that had, you know, some looked like some townhouses and stuff like that. That would have been more affordable. You know, if we're gonna limit them to like a certain number of lots and, you know, make it harder for them to develop it, you know, obviously they should just build whatever makes sense for their, you know, to make it work. But yeah, those are my thoughts. You know, I think we got to allow folks to build more houses. We need it in this community. That's it.
Thank you, Ryan. Can you just restate what your address was, because we missed it? I had cut you off while I was making sure you were sworn in.
34 Stonebrook.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question, because I thought there was normally
Yeah.
a three-tiered deal. First you had a site plan, and then you had the next stage, and then you had the final stage. And this seems to have gone from, I mean, as one member of the public, I don't think I was given adequate time to prepare to become a concerned party and all the rest of that, so I could take you guys to environmental court, which I would love to be able to do. But I don't feel, it's kind of like you went from, well, I think we'll do 32 units, and then the next thing I know, we'll do 10 and we'll vote on it tonight. And we just had a walkthrough. Am I missing?
Yeah.
What am I missing?
It was my mistake in that originally I was saying that it was going to be either approved or not approved this evening, and what would be approved this evening would be the preliminary. There is additional information, but and it's not a three-step process for this, right?
Yep.
No, it
Yes.
is.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Sketch was seen by the planning commission.
Correct.
In 24.
Correct. So this is step 2 of 3. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with the fact that the first step is normally, the first step was kind of two-tiered. We'll either do 32 or we'll do 10, but you didn't have anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate that and appreciate the comments. Yep. Okay, we are set. I think I don't see any other hands online. I don't see any hands here in the room. Any further discussion at this point? I think I would take a motion to close public hearing so we can have our deliberation.
Excuse me, I have one other question.
Please.
Excuse me, as far as the driveways are concerned, all of the drainage from those driveways is all slope drainage. There are no catch basins or any way to control the stormwater runoff. All stormwater runoff is going to be just by sheet drainage off slopes. Is that correct?
Roadside swale, so.
Roadside swale, okay.
Yeah.
And this one here clearly.
So in this one, I tip it inside
Right.
on purpose because
Yep.
I don't want to be involved in this
Yep.
town drainage thing here. Any grade more than 5%, the town makes me rip wrap it.
Yeah.
So I have a culvert, everything's tipped to the inside, and then I have 2 infiltration basins tied together with an infiltration trench connecting the 2 of them. So everything comes to this low point.
Yeah. Then on the other end, you have some retention ponds there.
Yep. You want to go up a sheet?
Yeah, we see the sheet, what is it, 2, I guess?
This one's tipped towards the inside, right? The swale, or there's a high point in the road roughly here. You see 414, high point in the road here. Drainage swale comes down this way to a settling area. Then it culverts underneath. There's a sediment forebay, which is required. And then this is a what's called the gravel wetland feature with an outlet structure that discharges to this catch, or the wetland complex.
So the entire length of that road, excuse me, the entire length of that road all goes back to that one settlement?
Nope, go back, Kent. The other side goes to a dry well.
Too far back. Okay, yeah.
On this side, as I was saying, there's a high point here, so that's the low side. This side slopes to a dry well bank right here.
Oh, okay.
So the soils, we did test pits of sandier, no evidence of groundwater out here. But over here, it's a gravel wetland. It's just a different type of stormwater treatment practice. But as you can imagine, the groundwater is higher because we're adjacent to a wetland there. So there's slightly different practices, but dry wells and gravel wetland. And then on this side, we discussed on site, the road is tipped to the inside again. So there's a swale that runs here that goes to this forebay, which overflows to a gravel wetland with an outlet structure that has a culvert underneath, which is rip-wrapped down to the toe of the slope. And then the remainder of the drive is tipped to the inside this way, and there's a swale that runs down to this area as well. And then in the back, I have a swale coming around that direction also.
Okay, so it's all, there's no curbing or catch basins or anything. It's all by sheet drainage off the road into swales and so on, and directed towards the
That's right.
stormwater features.
Correct.
So, okay, yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Last time around, Dusty, any questions?
No, I was just gonna suggest that before we close the public hearing, we have a discussion at the table to see whether or not
Sure.
what direction we might wanna go.
I also do have one more question.
Sure. Okay, sure.
Do you mind going back to the 9-10 lots?
Sure. And a person did raise their hand.
It's like
Okay.
3 up. So when we walked that, I saw, I think next to lot 10, a very highly erosive bank that looked like it was failing. It's like,
Yep.
is there a pipe that's going out there or something that's causing that?
Yeah, so this is an old 1970s catch basin network associated with Windridge. So essentially, catch basins continue all the way to the high point of Windridge, about halfway down. And all that water is directed to this pipe here, where when you discharge a pipe at a top of slope,
Right.
generally that's not best practice.
Is that going to something going to be adjusted with that? So,
So
it
that's
keeps
a
failing?
that's a town road, town catch basin. I did point out to Ian when we were out there that the town seemingly has put another pipe on the end of this pipe, and it has extended that line further down. I
yeah.
didn't see how far down, but generally that's the.
I haven't
solution.
seen that technique working. Like in, I don't know, in
Well-
Fern Hollow and
Yeah, piping to the bottom of a bank is generally best practice. You can rip wrap, but
it just,
getting
it just looked like that bank was right next to lot 10 to me.
so that bank go down. With my Ken. That bank's over here.
It just seemed closer when I was looking at it. Okay.
That's where it's eroding.
Yeah. Too far away.
Sandy soil tends to erode pretty quickly.
Yep, but yeah, so that's from 1970s, no detention, sort of stormwater system that wouldn't come close to meeting today's standards.
Right. Thank you.
Hand is up.
Yep, I see we have a hand online. We're going to unmute and put your hand down. Tell us who you are, where you're from.
Lois Whitmore, 178 Old Stage Road.
Okay. What's your question?
Well, I'm thinking in terms of the housing assessment in terms of needs, and one of the things that was sacrificed in the earlier plans was what some would call affordable housing, and I wonder if it isn't just as unfair to more wealthy applicants to assume that they have the means to continually repair and have the town spend resources on iffy landscape for housing at a time when we really do need housing for people who would like to live here, the children of people who grew up here, for example, and that this kind of luxury doesn't necessarily match the needs. And I wonder where in the committee's thinking the issue of matching the needs with the available stock of housing is going to make an appearance. I feel it's well overdue.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay. Let's have some discussion. You ready to roll?
Seems like the only thing that really is on the table is whether or not we want to approve a waiver
Yeah,
for the greater than 20%
correct.
intrusion. Everything else is more or less, in my opinion, everything else has more or less been addressed and covered in the staff report with the additional comments. It's not reflected in the conditions of the staff report, so we'd have to address that, but I think that's the only thing that's really pending.
Anyone else?
I'm also not seeing the elements of a PUD. I mean, we don't know what's going to be done with the open space. The trails aren't designated. I don't see exceptional design here. I don't see clustering. I mean, there's 3 separate. It's not a PUD cluster. I'm just not seeing it.
QB?
Well, I think the layout is certainly trying to optimize the kind of land that exists there. The whole how the 15-20% slope business is calculated I think it's still somewhat of a mystery. I think the map that showed the overlay of the units on the way the steep slopes were shown is illustrative of they've tried to optimize getting the units on the area that is the smoothest. And if there are undulations that exceed the 15 or the 20% slope, that again, to me, the area, particularly after walking that area, that we walked through some steep areas in order to get to the areas that were relatively flat where these units were going to be. So I think Dusty's question regarding what percent of the road, or whoever's question was, anyway, that it's the roadway where the predominant intrusion on the 20% slopes is occurring. And to the extent that that area is managed with stormwater controls and so on, I think that's the key to how this is how this was worked. So I'm tending to agree with a waiver because I think that here's a nearly 200-acre chunk of land that was shown on a master plan that was going to have a whole ton of houses out there, and as the regulation has changed over time, that has precluded development in the area, and probably rightfully so. So I think that this is a reasonable use of that property. The questions regarding like trails, etc. This is the preliminary plan. We can expect that we'll see more details, and I think we can expect we'll ask the applicant that we're going to need more details about what the plan is for the rest of that land and so on regarding trails. So this is a preliminary. Going to have some more time at it, but right now I think that I'm willing to say that we could waiver that.
Thank you, Dusty. I want to go to...
That's
Hubie.
Hubie, I'm sorry. Hubie. Yeah, it's been a day.
Yeah, I'll make it
Sorry.
100, and then we look the same.
Yeah, excellent. Trevor, I want to make sure we get to you.
No, I guess I would go along with a waiver at this point.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same camp as Hubie and Trevor. The applicant has done a lot of work. They've taken the feedback, and I think they've done a phenomenal job on figuring out a way to put additional housing out in a development that is for a desirable place for people to want to live And so I would be in favor of their waiver request because it is such a small portion of the property that we're talking about that would be impacted.
Yeah, thank you. Nick?
Not only a small portion of the property, but it's been scaled back tremendously since the other plan that was proposed months ago. So I'll just say ditto at this point.
Okay, thanks. From my perspective, I think between the initial plans that have come through and this version of it, this is a much better way to address the land that you're using. I think that I have some concerns a little bit about like where the location is of that house number 10. I think that I have a little bit of concern about. I would want to see that as far to the left of the lot as possible and away from that embankment and all. But I agree that it seems that the building lots specifically are within 15 is not ideal, but the 15 to 20% range that was shown, I think, feels to me like an acceptable area where those building lots are. It's really the roadways, the driveways that really significantly impact the steep slope, and I think that the concern about steep slope has been mitigated with the way you're addressing the stormwater for those driveways myself. So I myself am in favor, but I would want to make sure that we have, but off from Sharon's point, we would want to see, I think in final, some specific plans about, yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'd actually suggest that I couldn't approve this as written.
Yeah.
Because there's no conditions.
Yeah.
So unless we come up with something that says all the conditions, I actually would feel better if we continued it, allowed staff to draft up the conditions.
Yeah.
Also, traditionally, final review doesn't have a lot of conditions.
Correct.
Final.
No changes.
Yeah.
No changes,
I mean,
right.
it seems to me like you want to clear up some of these things at preliminary versus having it be a
like the
final.
town trails aren't.
Right, the town trails. Yeah.
Sorry, Dennis.
Nope, that's fine.
Yeah, we're talking about a condition that's, work out public works conditions with them.
Yep.
And certainly would take some direction on what you'd like to see.
I would like to see also some clarification a little bit more with the discrepancy with the fire chief about the 15% roadway.
And the width of the roads, that's a problem too. I just think like there's so many conditions that
Yep.
I would not be comfortable moving this to final.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Ken?
I have a question. So, with the road question, it was my understanding that in a previous iteration, the fire chief and public works were okay with the idea of having 4 houses share, 4 dwelling units share a 20-foot driveway. And my understanding is they would be supportive of you providing a waiver so that you could do that. And to not have a waiver, they could do a different design where they'd have a wider private road going to the first 2 units, and then a much narrower driveway going to the final 2.
Right.
So, and that also impacts the slopes differently. It impacts the slopes more at the beginning part where the road's wider and less where the road's narrower. If this is being, if preliminary is being continued, that would be helpful direction to give to the applicant so that they don't have to change it again later if that
And
comes
I don't
up.
think it was a waiver. It was through PUD dimensional flexibility was the conversation we had about the amount of units shared off a driveway. I know that's semantics, but I don't believe it's a waiver. I believe it's just you exercising flexibility through the PUD standards to serve 4 units off a driveway is how we had. And we haven't changed that aspect of it at all leading up to today.
There were a number of recommendations in there that all seemed to be the trails, the use of the public lands, all that can be conditioned and should be conditioned. So we could take the staff report as written today, not us here tonight, but take that staff report and all those recommendations, convert them to conditions And then that's something to hammer on. Anything that, all the recommendations, the change, the decrease of the right of way, you know, all that, just condition it. And then I think I'm only hearing that the true need for a waiver is for the greater than 20%.
Agreed.
And we do have a recommendation for that. So it feels like that is to take the staff report, modify it to capture those items that are in the findings that say we should do this, make them a condition. And that gives us something specific to work on as a potential approval.
And clear up the fire chief recommendations.
Yeah.
Be fine with that.
That's just.
Okay. All right. Staff okay?
You know, traditionally, like I said, when you go, you don't have tons of condition. All the technical stuff gets taken care of at preliminary. The final is more just the frosting on the cake, as Cheryl
Yep.
said.
But we're talking about continuing the preliminary.
Can do that.
The way I was hearing Dustin, though, that he wanted us to staff to come up with conditions.
Well,
to
we don't have any
approve
conditions.
preliminary.
We have no condition. No, I'm not looking to approve.
Okay.
I don't want to do it tonight.
Yeah.
I don't like. I
No,
absolutely
no.
don't
Yeah,
like to
I think
craft on the
I think I
fly.
understood that you want to talk, but we want to get it all in so we can talk about it in the continuing hearing.
We
But-
can create conditions. now
Right,
that we know.
but also, now that the applicant has seen this staff report, they have some things they could work on. So like talk with Public Works and come back for preliminary with a different plan. I think would be
We
another way to
can,
approach it.
it just, all that takes time, obviously.
That's what we're saying. Right?
Just to change my wording a little bit, I like the plan as presented. I support a waiver for the 20%, but we need the conditions that are reflected in the staff report as suggestions or requirements should be just conditioned. And then we into the preliminary report that we still have, and we continue it and we rehash it out. I mean, it's just,
Would you be expecting us to address those prior to our next hearing, Justin?
well, I would think you'd want to potentially, if it's something that you feel can be worked out, then work it out before it comes back to the table.
It's the difference of being on in like a month and being on in like.
Again, I mean, you know what's in the staff report now. You have an idea of what staff is asking for.
Yep.
Find out what you can and cannot deliver on that. And
Okay.
I mean, we want clarity. I mean, you've heard the discussions at the table tonight.
And the remainder could be conditions that's left over.
And I think the
Right.
lot
That's
10
fair.
thing is important too.
That's fair. Yep.
And they might show up as a condition, but you might resolve it and strike it because.
Correct.
If it's done, it's right. And that's happened before. If you've already resolved a condition, then it's struck.
We can do that.
Then I would take them.
And the public hearing is still open, so we can continue to. I move
Right.
that we continue this application to the next available date as determined by staff and applicant.
So the really checking into state statute, the proper way to continue would be to a date certain. And I know we might not have that date certain, but we could say a date certain. If it doesn't work, we could then continue again.
Yep.
So
Public Works usually takes 30 days for turnaround. Can we, in like 2 months? Give us a month to knock off as much of that list as we can. You know?
Yeah,
Priority.
you have the, yeah.
Oh yeah, it depends. DRB schedule too, but you know. But I think anywhere in the
I think
2
we have
to
our
3
schedule
month.
on the thingy.
Yeah, I mean,
It's in there, yeah.
Here.
I think that's too soon. They're gonna make some changes.
Do you need to look at this?
They're
Perhaps
saying
September?
months. Right.
I'm saying it's gonna take me a month to make the changes,
Yeah.
and I know Public Works needs a month.
Right.
And then
So
Now
I
we're 2
think
months.
we're talking probably the first October
The second weekend,
okay,
meeting.
second time in September.
There's availability.
yeah.
There
if,
is.
If you're open, then yeah,
Yeah.
maybe the second one in October.
Are you gonna have a second one in October? That's a
Oh,
question.
Based,
Yes.
That was something to be talked
based,
about.
based on
Based on
based
what
on
you're
what's here, I
going
would say it's probably likely.
Okay, so that date is, no, the 16th, October 16th.
How do we do that in a motion?
So the motion is to continue to October 16th.
We have a motion to be made to continue this to October 16th date. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Sharon. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
I did, Trevor. I was watching. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
I'm not gonna be here.
Oh, no.
I'll be here.
All right.
Planes and everything like that. Stupid.
On my agenda. Here we go. Next item on our agenda is we have a site plan and master plan amendment. This is Mr. Bove is proposing the construction of buildings G1 and H at the Essex Town Center, located at 3 and 10 Commonwealth Ave and 10 Carmichael Street. Mixed-use development commercial, or MXDC, and business design control overlay districts. The completion of Carmichael Street, as well as the initial work on the town green, are also proposed. Buildings G and G1 will be comprised of 11 one-bedroom units and 4 two-bedroom units each. Building H will be comprised of 21 one-bedroom units, 9 two-bedroom units, and a 7,600 square feet of commercial space on the first floor. Staff, what have you to say to this?
Sorry. First, I would mention that this application, or an application almost identical to this, was previously denied. It had this staff report that I updated, so a lot of the pieces in the staff report are carried over from the previous denial staff report recommendation from my predecessor. What I've updated in there is some of the town's regulations have changed. We've since updated a new town plan. The ETC Next plan was incorporated into the town plan, which gave it some extra weight above what it had before. There's also design control district regulations that are in place now that were not in place before. So most of the work that I did with updating the staff report had to do with updating it in regards to the regulations. And I would also mention that it seemed like one of the larger concerns before were because of all the outstanding violations against the in the area. At this point, my understanding is there are not any outstanding violations. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention at this point. This point, because that's different than how the staff report was before. But as I had updated in the conclusions area, overall, the main concerns that existed before are still the same concerns that exist now, with the character of the streetscape not being consistent with what the town is looking for in the ETC Next master plan and the business design control district standards. That it's really looking for a much higher level of pedestrian environment in this area. This is going to be a really important part of the town's development focus area, and really wanting to have a high quality environment there that really, as the town is now its own separated entity, this is where we're really looking to have the focus area of the town in this area, and then the to be determined design for the, well, the design's mostly to be determined, but the new town offices that'll be across the street, that'll really provide a real identity for the town. So I think in this particular case, it's especially important to really try to hold to having a good quality development in this area. One of the other, so that's has to do with the streetscape design, with their proposed narrow sidewalks as opposed to wider, better pedestrian amenities that are suggested in the planning documents. Another concern from before that continues on is having the residential street level development really the intention is to have not street level residential development in this area. I think that it could be done in a way that could work well. As it's shown, it's pretty awkward, as my predecessor mentioned before, that parked cars are kind of shining their headlights right into dwelling units. It would be likely that the dwelling units would just always have their curtains closed. It's going to create a very dead kind of street space. I think for residential units, they can be on very busy streets. We see that in cities, but they're designed where you might have porches or other things that provide a buffer space, or the first floor is elevated 4 feet. You know, it's something that really fits within the context that you're looking for. So I think that was one of the major design concerns that was present before that still exists now. A couple other issues that were present before and continue have to do with the town green area, or the park area, the commons area, not being fully developed at this point. They're proposing to establish an area for that, but basically just have it a lawn, a grass area with some street trees and a bench, but not developed to the extent that it was envisioned in the planning documents, either in the master plan that previously currently exists for the site. So that's a question mark to what degree does that really get developed. They've also proposing to move it to a different location, and I think it's important that the town green is really an integral part of what's developed around it, so that it really suits a purpose, and it's not just a green area to look at, but it really serves the people who are living there and really fits with the adjacent uses. So again, that was a concern from before that carries over now. One new concern is the removal of the underground parking from the one building. So now it would just be surface parking. So in this particular area, there does seem to be an abundance of surface parking, which I think is why they removed the underground parking. But I think the intention really in this area is to try to minimize the surface parking. And in addition to this building, I think there are 2 other buildings on the site that they're proposing to remove future underground parking from, that previously on a previous master plan had showed underground parking. So I think it's something else to really keep in mind. You know, just having the seas of parking, surface parking, would end up detracting from the livability of the area. So most of the comments were just carried over from before. The changes at this point, which I mentioned in the beginning of the staff report, the removal of the underground parking. There's a couple dumpster locations that were included. I think there was a new detail that was added, and some snow storage spaces, I think, were the only other changes. So essentially the same.
Before we get to board questions for staff, do you mind just taking down the prior application? Thank you.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you, and my apologies to everybody for that.
Yeah. Trevor, any questions for staff?
Yes, I'm just a little confused. What this is a master plan? How does that work? I guess it's sort of a point of information, I guess.
Right, so they have a previously approved master plan that they're looking to update, in addition to their site plan proposal that they have.
So then does this, where does this go from here?
I believe it's a one-step approval, right? So they have a site plan where they're proposing to put their 3 new buildings and the associated items around those, and then the master plan improvements that are a little bit broader than that. I think you're showing buildings in a couple different locations than you had previously had. You're showing the previous master plan. It's moving the town green to a different location. It's having a couple of the buildings without the underground parking, and the sizes of the other buildings are a little bit different.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Nick, questions for staff?
Yes, I think I have two questions. Line 256 under the section that talks about conformance with the Essex town plan. Goal 1C states Essex Town Center's focus of concentrated growth in community life. The applicant's proposed design still seems to fail to provide focus on community life. Are you referencing the community life, some of the items that you were just talking about, such as the parking, such as the some of the restrictions of sidewalk you were just mentioning a few moments ago, or something in more detail in the town center master plan? Sorry, could you just explain what you mean?
Yes, and this was a carryover from before that I've updated. I don't remember exactly the text that was updated, but it has been updated to reflect the correct text from the 2024 town plan, which actually I think that first goal on line 255 might have been the same, but then maybe it was the next item that was updated. But anyways, yes, it had to do mostly with the streetscape characteristics for that area, with having the narrow pedestrian environment and creating kind of a dead street space that's not going to have the vibrancy of the commercial uses where you'd have the foot traffic, and resulting in more of a closed off dead space in the street there.
Okay, thank you. I did have another question regarding item I found. Give me just a moment. I apologize. Oh, a recommendation on line 732 is recommending that the entire 21 space above ground lot and the 6 spaces along that drive be eliminated. I didn't see any 21 space lot that you were referencing and potentially removing. Could you maybe point that out on the map?
Can you tell me the line one more time?
Line 732.
Bingo.
Really starting with 730. Make it make sense.
I believe in this section here, this was just carried over from what my predecessor had. Something that may be slightly different now is because they that might make these numbers slightly different is with removing the ramp that would have gone down into the underground parking for building H. I believe that gave them some more surface parking spaces. But I believe that these numbers that are here are probably all carried over from what was in the staff report previously. But give me a second to think about that a little bit more.
Okay. And that was the last question I had for staff, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Thank you. Stephanie?
I have no questions for staff.
Thank you. Sharon?
None for me yet.
Hubie?
On line 210, it says where regardless of layout, as noted in finding 2A, 2D, where is that finding? Line 210 is. Yeah, I guess, because I couldn't find that whole numbering sequence of findings or whatever with Roman numerals.
Yeah, I did do a lot of format changes here, and
Oh, you did find it.
three,
Sharon said she found it under a different.
three,
It's just a numbering problem.
two. Is that the part that's starting on line 370?
One of the density bonuses we're talking about, right?
Yes, I think that's now referencing the part in starting on line 370. And my apologies for that, because I tried to update the numbering system the best I could there, but I think that's a piece that I didn't completely fix. I'll make a note.
Okay, to say that the numbers and the metrics on this thing are confusing would be an understatement.
And they
Okay.
always were.
Densities and percents and.
I just read all the way
Yeah,
through.
it's like it's pretty wild. But anyway, another question: the building height. They requested to increase building heights. I noticed there was an issue regarding potential water pressures and so on. But how does that increase in building height work against our 40-foot limit and the recent state legislation that says you can add another building, you can add another, am I getting this wrong? That you can add another story above what is required?
If it has affordable housing in it.
You're right. Yep. Homes Act. Yep.
Yeah, so,
But getting to your point about the water pressure, that's not something I evaluated individually. The fire department provided a comment for that.
yeah, it indicated that there would need to be more information, I think that would be, but I guess the real question is, can additional heights be approved even though it's exceeding our 40-foot limit?
I think that you could make a waiver to allow whatever height you would like.
Well, I mean, does this? I guess the question is, doesn't the state? The state regulation? My understanding was that in areas where there were sufficient utilities, that another floor could be added to an existing regulation without that, even though it might
I
be in.
believe all that is hinged on affordable housing.
It is. Yep. So I think it's a 25% standard, 20%, somewhere in that range. But if the project proposes that amount of affordability, the town is mandated to allow an extra story above what is required. So 40-foot building is a
Right.
3-story building.
So
it
I
could be
mean,
4.
and I find it interesting is that, so now that is actually in conflict with our regulation. It says we can't exceed 40 feet, but the state
Yeah.
regulation
It's
says
the
that
same
we
thing
can.
with all the other Homes Act
Yeah.
pieces, 5 units an acre density. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, okay, so I guess, I mean, that answers that, because another thing I found, as a little sidebar, found that the town of Essex no longer has access to the ladder truck that the Essex Junction has, which we paid a whole bunch of money for. But I guess that's another topic for another time.
Different table topic.
Yeah.
Yep. Sharon, you look like you had a question.
Comment. I think in the State Housing Act too, they don't. There are exceptions for having enough water pressure, having a fire truck. I don't think they as far as I know, that there are restrictions, not just we're all in on an extra 2 stories and, everybody dies upstairs. I mean, I'm exaggerating,
I
but.
guess I want to look
Every
at that.
apartment is issued parachutes.
Yeah, I would just say we're not planning
I don't
on
think
using
that's-
that provision of the Homes Act, so.
Yeah, you would need to have affordable housing in that building, not just in the project.
I
the
believe
whole
that's-
master plan.
I would agree, I believe that's probably part of it.
Okay, so I guess that kind of answers my question. If there's no affordable housing involved, then the increase in height would have to be ours alone, not ruled by legislation or whatever. Okay, all right, thank you.
Dusty.
ETC next considers height an optional, modifiable element, correct? We can modify, and they can modify that because it's town
Yeah.
center.
Well, it also recommends increasing the building height in this area.
So we've got plan that says do that. Would every building in this situation, we're talking about the master plan, would these buildings be coming in as they're being built, or is the site plan review that we're also doing the building review? Or is there a separate application as each building comes in?
Not for you to review, right?
I think
You
if
just-
you're approving the whole thing and you're only
Yep.
pulling a permit for a section of it, you can do that.
Yeah, we pull a building permit for the infrastructure and for each individual building likely, but the waivers would be blanket because it's one site plan application for all of those elements.
So you wouldn't be coming back. You wouldn't be coming back to the DRB for anything.
That's correct.
Right.
Oh, that's on the plus side.
Good for now.
Good for now. All right, we've heard from staff. We've had some questions for staff. Let's open it up to the applicants.
Thank you.
We're not there yet.
All right.
Brian Courier,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm following.
O'Leary Burke Civil Associates.
Jess Gassick with Scott and Partners Architects.
Rick Bove, the applicant.
First I just touch on the staff report. So the staff report was done 4 years ago with a specific intent in mind. I've read enough of Kent staff reports. I can tell what parts are Kent and what parts aren't. There's a specific voice. So I would just say that was a different time when there were outstanding zoning violations. Now the applicant's done. My understanding is, and if you've driven through the town center, substantial strides into cleaning up those zoning violations, and we are happy to report that there aren't any in there today. So turning over a new leaf. As it's a site plan, it's a one-step process, right? So it's not sketch preliminary final, like a subdivision is. Now, we could have gone conceptual, but we had generally the whole plan set that was submitted for town center. So we thought the best course of action would be to generally submit that same application. There are differences. I'd say the biggest one is that there was underground parking underneath building H, which has been removed as we've updated our shared parking analysis in the same manner that we did for the Essex experience. We feel that we're overparked by about 40 spaces, even with this new development. So this proposal includes connecting Carmichael Street in its entirety, no longer gravel, with the angled parking that's consistent with the town center now, and building Commonwealth down to that what will be a four-way intersection. So completing those streets, which we're obviously excited about. But and we know there's a number of things that we have to work on. We have Public Works comments. They want a traffic study. There's comments from planning and zoning that we want to have further discussions on. But before we did that, we need clarity from the board about what direction you're allowing us to go. And the rationale behind that is since we are back in, the ETC Next plan has been adopted as part of the town plan, which is also now parting in the zoning regs by reference. That my understanding is superseded our previous master plan. So, and that's a question I would have for you folks is, are we amending our master plan? Can we amend the ETC Next master plan? My guess is probably not.
Yeah.
It's kind of a footnote, but yeah. So we have this master plan of the ETC next that wants, 2 to 5 stories. It wants, higher densities. It wants a more robust streetscape. But these ideas conflict with the current version of the zoning regs, right? So the zoning regs still say your height is 40 feet. That's a 3-story building. Well, if I have a master plan that wants 2 to 5 stories, our only course of action there is a waiver. So, and there's other things similar to that, So we're asking for a height waiver, and I would say that the reported values, and this isn't a mistake that staff made, it's our mistake on our building elevations. Under building G, it stated that we're looking for a 55-foot height. Again, the required is 40, so a 15-foot waiver. That building is actually 48 feet. Okay, so only an 8-foot waiver for building G. G1, and these are the 2 pure residential smaller buildings, red as you come down Commonwealth on your right. So G1 is actually only 48 feet 7 inches instead of 54 feet and 6 inches. And then proposed building H, if you take a look at the elevation, there's a cupola on the corner, was reported at 66, but in actuality, building H, that top height is only 55 feet 2 inches. So, across the board, we're close to about 10 feet lower than what our elevations stated. And every town has a different way of measuring height. So this was specific to a different municipality, not necessarily Essex, which I believe was where that error occurred. But so we are requesting significantly less height waivers, but still, building H is proposed as a 4-story building. G and G1 are 3-story residential buildings, but there's a peaked roof. So those buildings are over your height waiver, and height waiver, affects density. So density affects what I do as far as a traffic study. It affects parking. It, just goes down the line. So that's the first one I have, and I'm more than happy to circle back here. But so we want to talk about the height waiver. A block density waiver. So basically, there's a section of the regulations that says no more than 12 units per acre per block. And that's meant to spread density out throughout the town center. I'm not quite sure the rationale. Obviously, there's a big age discrepancy of parts of the town center. There's purely commercial buildings out there. So how our block is supposed to meet a 12 units per acre block density where half the buildings on our block, or a third of them, are purely commercial, I don't think it speaks to the next plan's goals and objectives of higher densities. It seems to be encumbering the goals and objectives of the ETC next plan in our view. More stories, higher densities. I don't think block density is in tune with our master plan for this development. So that would be another consideration. The footprint size waiver. So right now the zoning regs say that a building shouldn't be more than 10,000 square feet. Building H is 10,300 square feet. So it's just barely more than the 10,000 square foot requirement. I'll say that the Whittier building is closer to 20,000 square feet. If you look at the ETC next plan and their the master planning plans that go along with it, every building shown there, except there's some smaller ones, but the larger ones are certainly bigger than 10,000 square feet. So again, I think there's conflict there. And then the streetscape piece of it, I think that primarily lends to first floor commercial versus first floor residential. We want to know the board's feedback on, what they want to see in that regard. And again, the amount of square footage of commercial space versus the amount of residential units affects down the line all of the changes that are being requested by department folks as part of the staff report. And then the parking and civic space piece of it. So Kent made a point in his staff report that he seemingly agrees that we are overparked, looking at our shared parking analysis. And a consideration that he's making that I agree with is, you know, if we're over parked, we have a 21 space parking lot behind buildings G, G1, and H. They're formulated in an L, and behind those buildings, maybe put a plan up. There's a parking lot, and his suggestion is maybe reduce the parking lot in some capacity to create some civic space. You know, an area where you can have picnic tables, community gardens, barbecues. Well, we're certainly inclined to do that, but we need the DRB to agree that that's something that we can do, and the parking requirements do allow you to consider other ways of evaluating parking, such as a shared parking analysis. Essentially the same exercise we did for the Essex experience 6 months ago. And then the last piece of it is the density bonus that we're requesting. So in this district, if you're proposing multifamily housing, you can get a 400% density bonus if 25% of the units within your development are designated perpetually affordable. All right, so right now, the Whittier building, which has, I think, 44 units, was done with HUD financing, federal funding, years ago, which came with a certain time limit associated with how long those units had to be perpetually affordable. I think it was 20 years, 15. And that time period has run out. So we have the ability to rent those units as 100% market rate. Not our intention. We'd like to perpetually make those units affordable into the future in exchange for that 400% density bonus consideration, which is where we get to the density numbers that we're talking about. But that density bonus hinges on height waivers, block density, footprint size. They're all interconnected. So I can't, in good faith, you know, spend months working with the town on eliminating a lot of these concerns without clear feedback from you folks. And I know it sounds like there's more waivers, but I say, in my opinion, it is 100% tied to the fact that you have a town planning document, that is the ETC Next plan, that wants higher densities, more stories, you know, public realm space. It wants all these things, but the zoning regulations are currently lacking on implementing those things in an effective manner, in my view. So I think we're keeping to the spirit and the planning documents that are out there. I think these waivers speak to the zoning regs lacking, you know, and when we were in 2021, I know there has been some changes, but all the items that I'm talking about now were on the table then, and we're requesting them to be on the table now. So, you know, it's been 4 years, and I know planning, you know, it takes a while, and that's just, you know, that's the way it is. But affordable housing and multifamily housing, high densities in town centers is something the state's pushing abundantly hard, and municipalities are as well. And we feel now is the time to complete these streets and to, you know, finish off a preeminent corner in town. So,
Thank you. Questions from the board? Dusty?
You're not ready yet.
Not ready yet? Okay. Hubie?
Well, like I said before,
Microphone.
to say that the to say that all of these calculations are confusing would be an understatement. I mean, how they all interrelate, how they play off each other. I'll have to confess I have not had an opportunity, enough time to even begin to understand how they all relate and what's at play here. So, the applicant has had plenty of time to do this. Staff has had plenty of time to do this. Got this stuff Tuesday.
it's certainly not straightforward.
Okay. You're set, then I move on to Sharon.
I have a question. Can I ask staff a question also?
Of course, yeah.
So how does the density bonus work? Does it have to be in the buildings that are being built or anywhere in the development?
My understanding is this doesn't, because it's these aren't individual lots here, that we can look beyond just the specific building. So this is still can be a mixed use area, even if a specific building is not mixed use.
So how do we time that to make sure that these things are affordable, because I've seen it happen before where it just sort of doesn't happen.
For having units that would be affordable?
Perpetually.
You have to go through a
think,
deed process.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I can let you guys answer, but
Sure.
I think you're proposing an existing building that has
That's right.
affordable housing now that has run out.
Right.
But you're proposing that would remain affordable housing as a swap for the waiver of the new buildings you're talking about building.
Yeah, well, so it's for density bonus.
Is that the one over where Cody's used to be?
Yeah, that's Whittier building.
You need to fix the windows.
It's in process. When's the last time you drove by?
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's in process as we speak. It looks beautiful.
So it's a density bonus, but so unlike a development where you're right, you know, could the affordable units be the last ones that are built out of a 10-year build or something like that? We would essentially expect a condition of approval at final that we sign the appropriate legal documents drafted by the town attorney to make those units perpetually affordable from the start, day one.
Drafted by your attorney for the.
Okay, sure, but okayed by the town attorney.
So we have we'd have the wording before approval.
For final approval.
Okay.
Yep, but they would be, my expectation would be they would be affordable day one.
And how do they define affordable? Is there a specific standard? I think I read that in here, right?
Affordable housing is that you pay no more than 30 to 40%
Thank you.
of your adjusted gross income towards your housing cost. It makes it difficult because it is a broad definition, and your affordable is not my affordable, and it doesn't mean that the housing is then not affordable. So
Right.
I have a hard time with that definition because people throw it
I don't know.
around, but
I think that's affordable for Section 8, right? But is
nope,
it?
that is the definition of affordable housing overall, and that is actually is what is in our regulations, is that it is 30% of your median income is going to. A lot of times they tie it to a 60 or 80% of median income limit, and I haven't delved enough into our regulations to see if we go that deep.
Yeah.
But that is what affordable
Interesting.
housing means by definition.
And
by
it's,
the federal government.
gross income, which is really weird. It doesn't matter.
Always been gross income.
Yeah. Thank you.
Quick clarification.
Yes.
You mentioned and Sharon mentioned it would be something approved at final. What final? 'Cause I thought
This is final.
This is-
That's what I'm just worried. This
Our,
is
our
this-
final meeting of site plan, I don't expect this will be our last one, is what I
Okay,
meant by
that's
that.
what I
Yeah,
just-
no,
I
sorry.
just-
Good clarification. Thank you.
I think also I'd want to double check that is the right definition that's being used, just to double check, because I've seen different definitions for that. So I just want to make sure that that's right.
I know there's a definition in our zoning.
There is.
That I think it references state statutes definition. Which is
It always is tied to the federal HUD definition of affordable housing. And it is a generic term. So yes, when you get into programs like LIHTC, like Section 8, it changes because the programs is changing. So what they're proposing, which I'm glad to hear because I read it and I'm like, well, this isn't perpetually affordable, is that they will tie it to that property. So even if Rick were to go sell that property, whoever buys that property has to maintain it as affordable. They can't turn around and make it market. It is perpetually tied to that building. So that's how they're getting their perpetual affordability, because no HUD program is perpetually affordable. There's always a time limit to it.
I don't think it's based on a HUD program, right? It's calculation of affordability.
I think Stephanie's saying something different, though.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking of these apartments are going to be permanently affordable. They're not going to be Section 8. They're going to be based on a certain percentage of the poverty level.
There is a definition. VHFA does
figure
it
it out.
all the time. That's what their lawyer would craft. I would suggest they will just go to VFHA. They write these all the time. And it states what those income limits would be that they would have to rent to.
Gotcha.
It would be that prescriptive in the deed to that property.
And that would be to the existing property.
Correct.
That
Thank you.
you referenced that was once held our beloved Cody's.
Yeah, I
That's
missed it.
right.
But anyway. Good sweet potato for us.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you, Stephanie.
It's my soapbox.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to your soapbox in a minute, but first, I'd like to let's bring up Trevor.
Well, I don't have any comments at this time. The one thing I think I'm with Kent that it should have a good streetscape, which I know planners have done a lot of work on recently, and that would just be a concern of mine that it's attractive and promotes pedestrians. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trevor. Stephanie, back on your soapbox.
Yeah, no, they answered my affordable housing question and how they're going to make it perpetual. So that was one of them. Thank you for explaining, because I read this over and I'm like, why would I approve something that was denied a few years ago and you haven't done anything to bring it back into compliance? So thank you for explaining why we're seeing this. I think my biggest thing would be along the height. When I hear the fire department, I know they'll probably make you have a sprinkled building, but they don't have a ladder truck to go up that high. That's a little concerning from a safety standpoint. For me, I totally agree on the the parking. I said that with the Essex experience. So I think your suggestion of, reducing the parking and making green space is great. But yeah, I would want a lot. I wouldn't approve it as is, obviously. And I'm still mulling over some of the other things.
Good. If I can just mention something for a second that also just picks up on what Trevor said. For the streetscape design and the elements that create the right kind of feel that the intention is, the business design control overlay district requirements are new, and I did update the staff report with some information about the business design control overlay district. I think that information would be really helpful for the applicant to look through and kind of see how their design can best meet those objectives, because there's an enormous amount of information in there. And putting the staff report together, I was really, really pressed for time. So I tried to include as many helpful considerations in there when I talk about the business design control overlay district starting on line 482. But I didn't have enough time that I could start pegging those regulations back to how their design was and try to look at each piece individually. So, but that's, I think, would be really helpful for them as they think about, for example, if they wanted to keep the residential units still having residential on the first floor, there could be really helpful information about how to really make that work in a way that still keeps the active streetscape, but it still works for residents so that they don't just have to keep their windows closed all the time. And that provides some new information that wasn't, some new regulations that weren't in place before.
Okay. Thanks. You're good, Stephanie.
I did have a question about, now that it came to me, it's more for staff. And maybe it's not a question, it's more of a comment. So we want buildings in this area that have commercial space on the bottom and housing on the top, because it provides a better streetscape, community, walkable, pedestrian feel. But I guess my side note is if your economy is shrinking and those sit empty, is that even a better look as well? Or is it that maybe the frontage looks a little bit different and it can be all housing, but the entrance looks a little different to the building? Because I'm just like, I look around and everybody's building commercial on the bottom, housing on the top, and then they just sit vacant. And how does that be more attractive than having housing?
Yeah, and I sympathize with the applicant. I mean, they're going to want to build something that works for what they can get a return on their investment for, and for what works for them. That's why I'm kind of feeling like their direction going with residential units on a ground floor. I feel like there's a way that could work, and I'm kind of going along with that, even though I think it would be better overall if that didn't have to happen that way. But if the market's not there, the market's not there. I think that the buildings could be redesigned, or the area right in front of the building, so that could really work well. There also could be ground floors that really support residential uses, like laundry rooms or mail rooms or
Common
entrance areas, common spaces that could be along the front that could really fit in with, yes, it's a residential building, but you can have the windows open still. You can see people moving around and doing things that actually work for that kind of context. You could have the rear of the building that faces the parking lot, which maybe could have a little bit of green space, really be more of, that's the area that the residents is sort of looking out at. I think as it's presented, it has the same criticisms as before and doesn't function very well. But I think if they really wanted to keep it all residential, I could picture a way that could work.
Yeah, and the regs don't say first floor residential. They just talk about an attractive streetscape, and as you mentioned, that is subjective and has different, like I think some of the things you're suggesting certainly, are attractive streetscapes that aren't first floor commercial.
Okay. Good, Stephanie?
Good.
Okay. Nick?
Right. 2 quick questions. What is the applicant leaning towards for building E? Residence, permanent housing, or a hotel?
Great question. So that's not part of our application, and I believe that's on the master plan, which I think has been superseded by the ETC Next plan. So
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think there's definitely more detail on your plan
Certainly
than the
is.
ETC Next master plan.
Yeah.
I remember talking to Peter Edelman, and he's like, I never agreed to tearing all my buildings down and putting new ones up. So I think
know.
there's a lot more.
Yep.
I think that the ETC master plan we'd look at probably more for connectivity.
Yep.
Just generally what we want things to look like versus the actual footprint
Okay.
of the building. And
So master plan inside of the master plan, more specific to our property. And wherever that shakes out, it is a master plan. It's I don't believe hotels are allowed use right now.
No.
Something that's being worked on is part of ETC Next implementation, but hasn't been done yet. So we'd have to wait on a hotel, but that corner is not part of this current site plan.
Gotcha. And plus, it would probably indicate, based on availability or vacancy of the, if approved, the
Sure. Yep.
housing. Okay.
Yep.
Second question that I had, storage for snow. Is there a plan for?
Yeah. So if we have some civic space, I think that will allow for it. Some grassed area, more grassed area. But this end is, is it 90% impervious? I think it's meant to be intensely developed. So
Right.
a lot of times in those intensely developed areas, it's quite common for snow to be trucked out.
Common, meaning that's the intent for this application?
It may be. I think once we rework the parking lot, we can certainly add more snow storage space. I think Kent's idea is a good one, that we should reduce, if we're over parked by 40 spaces, reducing some of that parking directly behind the building and putting some green space there will allow for, dual use in the wintertime.
Gotcha. That's all the questions I have.
Dusty.
Just a couple general comments. One, as a master plan amendment, I have no concern about this. As a site plan, I don't think this is baked well enough to even. I've got to say I know this is a long-term process, and sadly I've been through most of the iterations of it. But I think what's in front of us in writing tonight is not clear enough and not clean enough as a site plan. And, you know, we can talk about all sorts of stuff, but if this is site plan is approved and these buildings don't come back to us, we're done. I mean, that disturbs me quite a bit. So concept, master plan, absolutely, bring it in. Site plan, not even close to being ready to look at this yet. I mean, I don't think the document in front of us is clean enough or clear enough to look at. Sorry, it's just I don't think initially I would have to deny the whole thing at this point, unless we want to split the master plan out.
Yeah, we're, like I said at the beginning, we're asking for a continuance, which I know is something we don't typically do, but essentially we're asking for a continuance with direction from the DRB on those 6 items that I, bulleted down through to give us feedback in order to refine the plan to get it in front of you folks with something that is approvable, and
Yep.
maybe that's even a couple steps. Like I get it; it's a significant corner in town. I mean, the elevations that are in front of you. That's a very subjective topic. Is that some? Put them on the screen. Is this something that generally is attractive to the board? Or do you want to see something different? I mean, we do have a full design in front of you. Yes, it is lacking in certain aspects. I don't disagree there. But I thought the benefit of having that full design in front of you was better than just having boxes with nothing.
And don't completely misconstrue what I was saying. I'm not necessarily talking about your portion of this. I'm also talking about staff's portion of this. Not for lack of effort and lack of work, but it is as very clear by what Hubie mentioned. It's referencing section 2. Well, there's no section 2 and there's no section 3, and the document as it is and it stands right now is half baked and not ready for that level of review. And there's so much in it. I think you even admitted yourself you were in a rush to get it in. I think that shows. It is what it is. So
It would have been better to come in as a conceptual, but because the limbo of our regulations and the ETC plan, maybe makes sense to have the site plan.
We've got a site plan here, and I understand the 6 items that you're talking about, Brian, and generally if we were focused on those, as a site plan, maybe, but I don't know. I'm seeing way too many variables to act tonight, and really way too many variables to say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
And I don't expect a definitive yes, no, yes, no. I'm looking for a temperature of the water. Like, are we open to the idea of a height waiver?
So if we look at that from my perspective,
from
my perspective, that's part of the ETC next plan.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's on the table from an ETC next perspective.
Yeah, and that's our hope, obviously, right? But I am looking for confirmation that we're on the same page there. I don't want to do a traffic study with all 4-story buildings, assuming that a height waiver is going to fly, and then I find out, no, we were going to stick to 40 feet. They're all 3-story buildings, and I got to redo a traffic study in the town center. You can imagine how complicated that is. So I see what you're saying, for sure, and we're asking for a continuance, but I think the level of detail that is in the plan set lends to, getting a good feeling that a height waiver, I'm not asking, we're going to approve 58 feet and we love that cupola. But our 4-story buildings in the town center, something that the DRB is going to consider. And, given the next plan, I think that's the intent, but it's still a waiver given where the zoning regs are at this point.
That's the part.
That's why we're here.
That's driving me crazy. Okay.
And there's 6 of these items that are
Which is the most important? Is it the next plan or is it the regulation? I'm like Vinnie Barbarino. I'm so confused.
I do know there is a section in the business design control overlay that directly talks about referencing, or you shall reference the ETC next plan, and that doesn't say specifically about height, but it's more than just this is a guide to look at. It's I'm not quoting it right. It's a directive.
So would it be more helpful? It's not going to give you your definitive answer that you're looking for, because I think from the board's perspective, there's a lot here and it's not fleshed out so that we can digest it and really pick out those things. It would be helpful to say, hey, here's what they're asking for. Here's the zoning regulation requirement, but not just that it's a waiver, but also indented in ETC next plan says X, Y, and Z. That gives the DRB board the ability to see each and every tier of our regulations so that we can get to what can we do, what should we do, what can't we do. And I think that that's kind of where we're all at, is that there's just so much here that is all over the place that it's really hard to look at those little things that you want us to look at and say yes, no, maybe so, because it's just not laid out well enough for us to pick it out. I think it's a possibility, but I think we're getting so much pushback from the community on waivers that we want to make sure that when we're doing it for the right reason. And if it's laid out for not only us, but for the community to see, here are how our regulations go, we can have a better conversation. So you're right, it's going to probably be a two meeting process for us.
Expected at least 2.
Yeah, to get there. But I think that, I think we're amenable to what you're putting forward, but
And
we
that's-
can't say yes, no, or on any of this stuff tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm just speaking for myself.
Temperature
Taking
of the
the
water is
temperature.
what we're after.
Tepid.
Sharon, it looked like you had something you wanted to say.
I was thinking, but I guess I could say something too.
It's up to you.
Yeah, and I'd also, if we're going to do this, maybe we have a better architectural design. Not like what's sort of across the street, like less boxy, and as Ken said, if we're considering residences down, just a better architectural design, more pedestrian friendly, wider sidewalks.
Yeah. Okay.
Not dark alleys to the back door.
Jess is our project architect. You want to speak to some of the elevations?
Yeah, I think in our aesthetic, we were battling a little bit against knowing that we were coming up on a height restriction.
Right.
So as soon as we have gable roofs, that adds almost a story in height, which means we get to build less story, 1 story less.
And was that supposed to be in my packet?
I believe so.
Oh, that explains it.
We didn't see any
I was like,
Oh.
how does anybody know what they look
There we
like?
go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that what you're looking at?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so to me that's like sort of boxy, like across the street, where it's like sort of I don't know.
So the two, what we're calling G and G1, the 2 more residential buildings, we definitely tried to break them up with more gable, more traditional roof lines. That street view is sort of a good.
Yeah, it's better
view at
with
it,
porches and stuff.
And then the.
Oh, sorry, we didn't have
We
that.
didn't have that.
Well,
Okay.
that was on that packet, the electronic packet.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't.
That is
I'm
like
so
our-
used to
that's
so used to
the-
getting it printed out that I
So
didn't.
this top left street view is, I think, what Kent is referencing. We have residences right along the street, and we have porches, sort of garden entrances to those units, so that they can be entered right from the sidewalk. But we'll take a look at what that interface looks like between street, sidewalk, and the units, and maybe the units get pulled to the other side, and some of the more commercial element. We can look at all of that. As we rounded the corner of Carmichael and Commonwealth, thank you. That's more of our commercial building. The commercial space on the ground floor, it just has a different. We didn't want them to all look identical, so we chose a more modern aesthetic for that corner building, with the corner piece being the tallest piece of the building, and just trying to break up the facade along Carmichael too, with different masses that try to break down the scale.
Thank you.
And the topography slopes along that Carmichael side, so it integrates a ramp along, so we have the sidewalk, and then next to that we have a ramp that gets up to that main commercial entrance there. So there's some landscaping features along there. There's a accessible ramp, and highlighted by what's shown as yellow canopy there. as our common entrance. That's our commercial space there.
What was the reason for making the sidewalks narrow as compared to the town public works specs?
So it depends what you mean by narrow.
Well,
So-
narrower than the town. The spec says 10 feet, and we're talking about 8 feet.
So rec paths are 10 feet. Sidewalk detail is 5 feet. We're showing 8 feet.
Okay.
So there's nothing
Okay,
magical about 10 feet. But, you know, we thought 8 was a generous sidewalk. You know, if the board feels different and feels
Did
10
I see
feet.
that did Public Works have a comment about that or not? Or maybe I missed something.
There was something about the sidewalks being narrower than the other parts of the development in here,
Right, that, I guess,
that they didn't match.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like 5 feet on the northern corner of Commonwealth. It's certainly 5 feet on the older section of Town Center. Then I think it ups maybe to 10 in front of Building O.
Close to that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where their office is.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
it
I mean,
varies
yeah, I
throughout.
just remember seeing something about that the sidewalks proposed
Yep.
were
Yep.
not necessarily the same or.
And that goes into the public realm, you know,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? You
Yeah.
know, is a 10-foot walk required? Now, if we do 10 feet, that means less landscaping, right? You know, so generally, you know, we'd have to move the buildings back, but now there's really a push for, you know, having the buildings present to the street, you know, being up close, like a lot of towns will require a building to be a certain, you know,
Right.
you can't set it back any further than a certain amount. So that streetscape is defined by, you know, the buildings being forward facing, a wider sidewalk, you know. It's definitely something we're not opposed to. 10 feet would be fine. Not much different than
Okay.
8. You know.
Okay, so it's anyway. I thought it was an exception to the
Yep.
criteria for public works, but what you're telling me it's not.
Yep.
Okay. The building height is still. Yeah. Do we get into the same kind of question where? If our regulation says one thing, can we consider a broad element in the town plan, like the ETC next, that says you can go to additional building heights, if this were appealed, and would there be opinions that said, wait a minute, that's too general, it's not in the regulation, doesn't apply. We've had that discussion has come up with some of the recent applications we've had. Are we subject to that criticism down the road?
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I guess I need to look at the regulations a little bit closer before giving you an answer. I know there's a waiver for height.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, Essex has a pretty robust waiver provision in their regulations. There's a specific provision around waivers, and there's all sorts of circumstances that they can be applied, and height is certainly one of them.
But I also think, to your point, the business design control overlay district, which may not have been in place the last time we did this, sort of supersedes, I think, the base height requirement. Like an overlay district, typically, I haven't read it in depth yet, but an overlay would typically supersede the base requirement, and if the overlay says go look at the ETC next, that seems like a pathway that you could.
Yeah, I don't want to say 100% yes, but
No,
yeah, I do think there's we should look into it more before giving you a
Yeah.
definitive
Where I've seen that to be more of an issue is when you waive things that cannot be waived. But Essex has kind of this blanket waiver section in their regulations
Yeah,
that
so
allow
waiver-
for waivers
yeah.
for commonsensical type things.
So the waiver kind of covers that question, really. If we go with a waiver, we're not necessarily subject to that comparison of here's this vague language in ETC next
Yeah.
that doesn't coincide with our regulation.
And
So
there's
the
certainly-
waiver may, of course, the lawyers, they always have a way of.
That's actually one of the more explicit ones because it
Yeah.
does give you a number. It says 2
Yeah.
to 5.
Yeah.
You know, more the vagueness is what does public realm mean? You know, so.
I don't mean to cut this too short, but you know, we've got a lot.
Yeah.
We still have stuff to do tonight, so My quick question is, and I don't, maybe it's not these buildings, but where did the underground parking go and why is it not present anymore?
So the underground parking went away because we did a shared parking analysis using the most up-to-date IT figures that are available. And it shows that even with these new buildings, we're over-parked in the entirety because it's all under common ownership.
Yep.
We're over-parked by 40 spaces. So, and that's, without including underground parking.
Yep.
The underground parking ramp came into the side of the building. You generally lose spaces when you do that. And if you come in from the narrower side, you don't have to eliminate spaces. So it wasn't terribly efficiently laid out anyway. So we didn't lose a ton of spaces. I want to say it was like 15 spaces or something like that. It wasn't a lot.
And ultimately, that comes down to cost. It's very expensive to build the underground parking. So if there's not a huge benefit or a huge need, it is an expense that if we can find it elsewhere.
In this phase, we're including, the total construction of Carmichael and Commonwealth. So obviously, when we come in for the northeast corner, there's no infrastructure to do. Do I think we're going to be underground at some point out here when we run out of parking? I do, but it's not now.
Yeah, I'm thinking from
Totally.
from a resident's point of view.
Yeah.
Winters are long.
Oh yeah. No,
and if there are less surface parking spots because you have it more underground, then there's more green space that might be available as well. So,
Trust me, if it's affordable and they can go there, they're not going to care about parking.
yeah,
That's absolutely, that's correct.
Well, the affordable, but then again, the affordable we're still talking about is not necessarily here.
Again, when
because
I
we're
say
not-
affordable, I mean for them, not
Right,
the
right, that's
definition of
true, yeah,
affordable.
yeah.
They feel they can rent the unit, so
Right.
we're belaboring a point
Yeah.
a point that's
Right.
out of our purview.
It would afford more green space.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up only because they're looking for, you guys as applicants are looking for temperature, and that's just one of the questions that I happen to have, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And absolutely, like, wider, I don't know, the 8 foot wide is pretty wide, but I would wanna see, like, streetscape and sidewalks, particularly, in that main section that goes up to the major intersection would tie into whatever's gonna cross the street with what the town is gonna do. So that's gonna be a big highway of pedestrians going back and forth, I would assume, so, for me. But that being said,
And that parking might be needed.
that maybe it would, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you never know.
Yeah, typically
We're-
they don't cross state highways under separate ownerships, but yeah.
We'll see how it goes. I don't see this as being ready for us to do anything with tonight. I might take a motion to continue this.
So moved.
Got a motion from Nick, seconded by Sharon. Any further discussion?
We have to figure out when you're continuing it.
Oh, right, yes, exactly.
I'll
Discussion,
continue
I'd actually deny it, knowing that it's gonna come back and should come back, but if we deny it, it's not continued to a date certain, it's continued to,
So it can
they
come back.
bring it back in when it's appropriate.
I mean,
It's
What?
flip a coin, but
It's less work to write up and to continue than to write up a denial
Yeah.
for staff.
yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't
For the board
look
as well.
good.
For the board as well,
I don't
yeah.
agree with
Yeah.
that one.
I hate the word denial.
I agree with
Yeah.
Bill should have come in as conceptual.
So
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion to continue to October, remind me that date.
Should we ask?
Does the
how
16th
long
Well, so
it
what I got was you folks are looking for town staff to do an analysis of the 6 criteria that I laid out that we're looking for feedback on, where that is in the regulations, where it is in the ETC next plan, what ability you have to act on those requests.
I'd like to
Is
see
that
you
where we're at?
I'd like to see staff would recommend that you start with that analysis and then we look at it. You do the work. And we'll check it.
Yeah, and I'll help you find where all those regulations are. I know they're in a whole bunch of I know they're in a whole bunch of different spots. So I'll
can work on
make sure that we get all the information to you on that.
So there's a good waiver section in our zoning regulations for height that I think it would work.
Well, and I think it really does count that whether or not the overlay district points towards, do we have to have a waiver if we're directed to ETC next anyway?
Well, in particular for this waiver, it's very specific for waiving height if it's
Yeah.
if it complies with the district. So I mean, I think in this case you would go to the specific road.
And I know waiver can kind of have a bad connotation, but Hubie had a good speech about a waiver a few meetings ago. I forget the exact pieces of it, but it doesn't necessarily have to have that negative connotation.
Yep.
That's the easiest path forward.
Unfortunately, it does, you know,
Right.
you know, but the law, you can't not cover every possible situation. You know, the law provides you an opportunity to.
Could-
so,
could I
and
mention-
that's why
okay.
otherwise you wouldn't have us.
So if that's what we're looking for that October meeting, I think you and I can put that together by that time.
Yeah, one thing I would just mention is for the adjacent property, when they were thinking of having some taller buildings, it was really helpful to see some renderings like this, but it showed the context of the other buildings nearby also.
Oh yeah, you did that.
So that was
Essex experience.
really helpful, and I think you know, if you're thinking about having a taller building and maybe how it impacts the view, or you might have a lower area in the front and a taller area in the back, you can really see what the context is then. So I thought that was really helpful when we had that
Yeah,
available
that was-
before.
Agreed. So I believe we have a motion that was made to continue this to October 16. Is that, did I correctly hear you?
Is that the date that we?
I have Nick June and Sharon Z seconded.
And that
Thank
works.
you.
We'll start over
Okay.
once we're
Yeah.
doing it right.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to continue this until the October 16th DRB.
So we have a motion made by Nick, seconded by Sharon. Any further discussion here with the board? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1, dissenter being Dusty.
Trevor.
Trevor, he said aye.
Oh.
I was watching.
I was going to ask.
No, I was watching. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up that we have are business items, and I need a 2-minute break before we continue. The next item that we have up here are business items, though given the hour, I might consider the idea of taking a motion to move business items to the next meeting and perhaps get to I think we're very limited on time left before our written letter needs to be processed for the Scannell properties, and I think we really need to spend some time on that, having an opportunity to discuss that. So I would take a motion to move business items to the next available meeting and spend the time. There isn't anything on there that's imperative that we deal with today that I can see.
Can we make sure though that like we haven't approved minutes in a very long time, and we keep bumping business items? So can we make sure that we actually build the time in,
Because I have a little thing.
so that we can actually address get it done? It seems like we're procrastinating, and
It's tough. It's super busy.
it's super busy.
I agree with keep putting it off and putting it off.
Yeah.
Yes, these meetings have been really long, but like
Yeah.
scheduling it in a way that it's not going to be, it can be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like your August 21st meeting has 3 applications. 2 are conceptual. Try to keep those short.
Yeah.
You don't need to go into a lot of detail.
No.
With that. And then the Stinson Drive one.
Catherine, can I just hand you this, because it really is just things that were missing from the DRB manual, and it's nothing that is ex parte, it's just like things that weren't transferred from the Planning Commission. So
To
Pass it down.
I didn't really write it well because I was going to explain it, so my explanation isn't there, but I think you can figure it out.
So I'll move that we move the business items to the next meeting.
So that we can get right to the deliberative session.
Dusty's
Dusty's made a motion to move the business items to the next meeting. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Stephanie seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
So, you should adjourn the meeting.
Yep.
And you don't have to come back after and.
Because the deliberative session is still
It's,
open.
it's
Yeah.
private deliberative still open. So, in which case,
I
do
move
we have any?
I move we adjourn.
I just want to make sure. Do we have any other business that we needed? No. Okay. Then yes. We have a motion to adjourn for the evening by Dusty. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm gonna go with Nick on this one. I'm gonna go with Nick on this one.
Oh, okay.
Motion made by Dusty, seconded by Nick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. This meeting is adjourned.
So Trevor,